Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics and the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. I, of course, am one of your hosts for today, Cross, alongside my partner in crime, the other half of the dynamic duo of Twitch, Nitro.
What's up, everybody?
How are we all doing today, folks? How are we feeling today?
Theos, we are on, man. We're on.
Alright,
You
so...
cut Horizon off.
yeah, getting back in here. So, disclaimer up front today. We are 100%, as we've talked about, we are talking about Mouse. We're going to be talking about this Indie Comic Book Club. We are delving into this. This isn't your typical Indie Comic Book Club we are doing today. This is 100% real life story of the author and artist Art Spiegelman's father and his experiences during World War II. And we're going over Volume 1 today. We will be doing a second part to this next week where we talk about Volume 2. But Volume 1 today, this is like the story of basically most of the war, his experiences, and there's some kind of horrific stuff that happens in here.
Yeah.
And this is before he even goes to Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
So there are going to be some sensitive topics, as you can see from the title. We're going to be covering a little bit about the ban as well, and about why this has become such a controversial book in certain places, why people are talking about it. And just so you're aware, some of the topics in it are a little bit controversial. If you're not ready to hear them or to hear some of the details on it, we understand. This isn't a typical light-hearted Indie Comic Book Club today, but this is a very important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
This is a very important subject to branch into today, talking about the Holocaust, talking about World War II, talking about Nazis, talking about Auschwitz. This is... And now I bet Teos. Oh, sorry, Teos. But
love you.
yeah. But like I want to put that disclaimer out there. I don't want to put a downer on today. This is going to be an amazing conversation. I am so excited for this conversation. I am 100% been hyped for this. I've been hyped for this since the controversy came about, and I was like, we need to get this book.
Yep.
We need to get this book and talk about it 100%. And then everybody else had the same idea.
And Cross came in clutch along with our local comic shop, who we're good friends with, and we got a couple copies thanks to Cross's lovely wife Jay.
Yeah, like a week ago or something, we got these, like literally Richmond Comics, our local comic store. Massive shout out to them.
Yes.
Phenomenal sort. They have hooked us up on so many
OGs.
occasions, but like this book has been sold out everywhere, and like out of nowhere last weekend they posted it on social media. Hey, we got a few copies of Mouse, and when I say a few copies, I mean they got 3.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to your local comic book shop. If you have one near you, they might be a little more pricey than your Amazons or your Second and Charles if you have something like that near you, or secondhand shops. But man, go show them some love. Go show them some love, man. Support your local comic book shop.
Absolutely. Richmond Comics has came in clutch for us so often. I will shout them out time and time again. They took 2 of their 3 copies that they had in store and held them behind the counter for us to get there. Don't get me wrong, I told them we'll be there within like 30 minutes to an hour, like at the longest. I told them we're going to be right there to get them, but at the same time they still put them. They could have wholeheartedly said, no, they're staying on the shelf. If they're there when you get here, they're there.
Yeah.
But massive shout out to them for helping hook us up with this. So yeah, if you are not able to hang around for today, absolutely love your faces. Thank you so much. I thought I remember seeing this book a long time ago. When did it come out? It's been out for a while now. It's been out for a few decades.
73.
73, yeah. I was going to say that. It's a fairly...
It's about 50 years old, almost.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. Like, it's been around for a fair while, this book. Like, I literally seen it in passing. The interesting thing is, the place that I always remember seeing it was, like, even recently since I've been in the States, like, we would go to, like, Barnes & Noble and stuff in the bookstores, and it would literally be in the biography section. Next to other books. It wasn't in the comic section. It would sit in the biographies and stuff. So, like... I never kind of like gave it much thought. Like, this is literally my first reading of this. I didn't know that much about the book. I didn't know really anything about it before this, which I kind of feel guilty for as a comic fan. Like, I didn't know much about Mouse. But the only printed work to ever win a Pulitzer award and an Eisner award. You've heard us talk about Eisner awards here on the show before, especially for Indie Comic Book Club. They're like the comic book awards. That give out to some of the best new works out there, best things. So it has won that. But like literally, even on the front page or the front inside cover of my dust jacket, it talks about it. 1992.
Yeah.
Pulitzer, and it's like, so this book is an acclaimed book. It's the only book in existence, and probably will only ever be the only book in existence to win a Pulitzer Prize and an Eisner Award.
Yeah.
And there is no.
And this is I know I talked to you earlier, Cross, about this off stream, but like normally when I pick up comics, you know this, I pick up comics like, so I like to pour over the art. I like to pour over how the art is done, how the panels are structured, and all that stuff. This is one of the very, very few comics where I kind of just got lost in the reading of it.
The story is so good.
I would not look at pictures on the page for like a couple pages straight, and I realized, oh crap, I haven't looked at the pictures. I've just been reading the comic because it's incredibly engrossing.
You get so taken into the world. I don't know what it is about Art Spiegelman's, like, the way he portrays the story and the way he puts the story on page. It's just phenomenal. Like, I was so engrossed in this. I was so captured by this book.
It's absurd, right? Like the absurdity of it. Like you have these anthropomorphic black and white drawings of mice and cats and pigs talking like humans, dealing with really human, like really intense stuff.
Well, I was saying that to you beforehand. Like, they've literally got like the heads of mice and cats and pigs, but like they still refer to themselves as human, and they still act like human. Like near the end of the book, they're hiding in a cellar, and it is the author's like father, who's the story's about, Vladik, and him and his wife Anya are hiding in the cellar, and like she's screaming because of a rat.
Yeah.
In a normal, typical story, you're like, why would you freak out at a rat? You're a mouse.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, but like, it's literally played as a human story. It's a representation to put it across in a specific way, but yet it keeps it completely human. And I was very aware in reading this book about the real life situation. Like every so often, like every few pages, I don't mean like every so often I think about it and it hit me. I mean like literally every couple of pages, it would just hit me, and I'd be reminded of, this is a real story.
Yeah, this really happened.
These are real people. And like, I mean, the whole first chapter is almost like a slice of life. I said to you, there's barely any mention. I think the only mention is like one picture when they're on the train and they pull into a city and there's a swastika flag flying in the town, and that's like the first real mention of the Nazis and the invasion coming and all the stuff that's about to come. And this,
and they're basically like, I hope they don't stick around type, like kind of like hardy hard type stuff.
Yeah, it's like it's played off so calm, so chill. But in your head, you're like, oh, that's right, this isn't a happy story. There is so much awfulness to come.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's an awfulness, like I said to you, that I think we have to talk about and we have to remember and we have to... This book is called Controversy, and we're going to talk about that, but like, this controversy around it also goes in the face of like all the stuff of, you know, over the years you hear people talking about not wanting to speak about the Holocaust, wanting to forget about the Holocaust, wanting to forget about the horribleness of what happened.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, there are people who do want to do it and don't think we should teach it and want to like basically cover it over, and it's like, that's not okay. We need to remember the horrible atrocities that happen in history. If you forget history, you are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember this stuff. This is hard hitting, this is real life, but it's important.
Yep. I agree.
So, yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent already. I totally didn't expect
all good,
to
man.
go
I was like, are we jumping straight in?
I totally did not expect to, but like part of that was just, I want to put a disclaimer out there, like, this is going to be real, this is going to be hard, this is going to be... But let's dial it back and let's chill into it, let's ease into it. Tom Levine in chat, I've been to Dachau and it leaves an impression, to say the least. I can only imagine. I've always wanted to go and like visit the camps, to go and see them and see the remains of like Auschwitz and to see the remains of these camps, just to experience it, knowing full well like it's not going to be a pleasant trip, but just because like it is that part of history. Yeah. So I can only imagine what that felt like being there, Tom, and to think about that. But yeah, we're going to be jumping into this book, and the thing is as well, like, this book has got a lot of good moments to it, a lot of feel good points to it, a lot of happiness to it as well. So I definitely don't want to like just weigh it down on like this heaviness of it, but I want to get across like this is not going to be your typical podcast from us today.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and this is not like, you know, I was telling you before the stream, like the Art Spiegelman, the guy who wrote it, about his father, Vladik, he said this is not a feel-good story. This is not like a story that has like a redemption arc at the end. This is not that type of story. You know, he
No.
said I never wanted to be Mouse. He said I never wanted Mouse to be for children. I wasn't doing it in the context of I'm going to teach people how to be better. I'm going to teach people that they should learn about the Holocaust because never again. That was his whole goal behind this book.
Yeah. And I've still to read volume 2. I've not read the second one yet for next week, but in volume 1 I think he 100% encapsulates that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he absolutely encapsulates that feeling of it.
Yeah. Sorry, I jumped into a tangent too.
I know, it's okay. But yeah, it's like, so we're going to be jumping into Mouse today. I actually wanted to start a little more light-hearted. I didn't expect to jump fully into that. I wanted to ease us in.
Way to go, Cross. Way to go.
I can't help it. You know I rant. You know this stuff just comes out, and that's why I put a mic in front of myself and come on a show every week, because I need to get it out somewhere.
You like to talk? Is that what you're saying? You like to talk?
I know, I like to talk. Me, no, never. I never rant and ramble. Never once. When I got, like, 50 plus shows of me doing exactly that. I actually wanted to talk about, like, I got to get some comics yesterday, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it and ease us in, because if you got to see on social media, I did post that Jay and I actually went for a date day yesterday.
Oh, shoot.
One of the places we just went and hung out in a few places before we went for dinner, nothing major, and we actually went by Second and Charles. So I picked up a couple of things at Second and Charles, a couple of things I'm excited for. And I got
for those of you who do not know, Cross and I live near a store called Second and Charles, which may not be national, I don't know, but it's basically a second-hand bookstore, and they sell a lot of comics.
We would live in Second and Charles if we could. Like, they have a lot of second-hand comic stuff.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
I also picked up a mystery box. I did open it as part of my date night last night. I was told by my wife I had to see what was in it. I didn't realise when I picked up the mystery box that they were labelled differently. Like, some apparently were Marvel and DC, and I picked up one that was Indie Comics.
Ooh, nice.
And I thought, oh, Indie Comics, nice. It was crap.
Oh man,
it's mostly crap. $25 for nothing. I got a couple of things out of it, but nothing major. So I'll show you some of the good stuff I got out of that, and there's a whole box of stuff like, what the hell's this? Although I will say they clearly didn't have a clue what they were doing with it. They didn't, like, it's not like they've been put together well.
It's not a highly curated box.
It's not a curated box. They literally picked like 50 comics and just dumped them, because
what are the cheapest comics we can put in there?
Well, it's not even that, because I've got, like, one comic in there was in there like 4 times. Another couple were in there twice, and I'm like, you couldn't even go through it to make sure there wasn't doubles. Like, seriously. So let me start with that. Actually, let me start with some of the ones I pulled out of here that I'm going to be keeping out of the mystery box, and then I'll show some of the stuff I picked out and bought myself.
Nice.
Ravenite, wait, Nudity, violence and language. We go not family friendly. It's my time to Ravenite's been waiting for this moment all along.
Yes.
So by the way, if you want any of these comics, Nitro, I've got some doublers here. Some of them are
sweet.
not bad. By all means, if you want any, you can have them.
Okay.
So these ones I kept just because they were kind of like old school.
Yeah.
Very old school comics. Not in particular for like anything about them, but just like older comics. I'm like, yeah. I kind of don't want to chuck away older comics. I kind of feel like they should be kept and protected, almost like.
Heck yeah.
Pure old school comics. There was a Cyberpunk 2077.
Nice. Is that Dark Horse?
Yeah, that's a Dark Horse one. Hold on. Comics are dropping.
How dare you?
Yeah, see those comics I just wanted to protect. The box just opened itself, and the box just opened itself and like tossed them on the floor. So, good stuff. So I have no idea what this is. Catalyst Agents of Change, but this is the one there was like 4 of in there. So I figured since there's 4 copies in the box, I might as well actually keep one of them.
That looks pretty cool, though. The art looks pretty cool.
It looks interesting. This one, Decorum. I have no idea what it is, but I kept literally because it's Hickman.
Hickman, heck yeah, dude.
So like, I have no idea what it is, what the story is, what anything is, but it's a book by Hickman, so I'm like, hell yeah, I'm keeping that.
Very interesting cover.
So I kind of want to go up and look that one up online and check it out.
Yeah.
What else we got? Oh, I got a couple of Dune comics.
Oh, sweet.
So I actually got 2 that I think are the same issue, just variant covers.
Nice.
So I got that one, and then that one's also a number 6.
Dude, that's sweet.
And it seems to be the same series. So
Boom Studio?
Yeah. And then I also got a number 7.
That's awesome.
Quite a cool cover to that one, I like that one. Yeah, I got an issue 1 of Gears of War.
Ooh, that's sweet.
So that was a cool one to grab in there. And then I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I love sci-fi stuff. I'm a massive fan of Doctor Who, so there was some Doctor Who comics in there which I quite happily nabbed.
Sweet.
Stories on the 8th Doctor. So they're from the same series, so I might have a new little series to start collecting. Oh, and that one as well, like, is a fried pie variant from, which is like the Second and Charles and Books A Million like variant company.
Yeah.
So that was the stuff out of the box. Then I got these ones myself. Not having a clue there was Doctor Who in the box, I got a Doctor Who comic myself.
Nice.
Supremacy of the Cybermen #1, and also got #2. I found.
Sweet.
Because it features 4 of the Doctors coming together.
Yeah.
So I got those. And then I saw this because apparently I was in a BBC kick last night.
Nice.
Sherlock Studying Pink from the Sherlock Show featuring Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
On a further look, this is actually from the Geek Fuel boxes.
Okay.
Like was like a subscription box you could get.
Yeah.
And then on the back of it, there's actually a certificate of authenticity. Geek Fuel has issued this certificate to authenticate this copy of Sherlock: A Study in Pink #1 as an exclusive limited edition distributed solely by Geek Fuel.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a good find.
So yeah, got that. And then of course, to keep going into indie, I got some actual graphic novels. So I got Middle West by Scotty Young.
Ooh, I love the art, dude.
So that's Scotty Young, who's like most famous for like the baby variants of the Marvel stuff.
Okay.
This is one of his own series, Middle West. I have actually read issue 1 of this. I got a free digital copy of it, and it's actually really good. So
That's awesome,
I'm intrigued to delve into this. This is actually one that was on my Amazon list of stuff to pick up.
Yeah.
I got this one, Undiscovered Country, from Scott Snyder, which I read the...
You told me about this, I think, before.
Yeah, this is basically like where the whole of America is like walled off from the rest of the world, and is like basically all this stuff is dumped there. Infinity Bros in chat saying, yeah, Jarrett is very big on Middle West. Yeah, I've heard him like talking well about it. I've never read the whole thing myself, so I'm excited for it. But basically, yeah, like America's walled off from the rest of the world for like I don't even know how long it is. And then this is a story about like the first group to go in there, like since then, and what they find. So I'm like, if this is a good one, this is a future indie comic book club one.
Heck yeah, dude, I'm down. I want to buy it right now.
And then of course, because I was on a total Doctor Who kick, because I've been watching Doctor Who with Jay and starting to take her through it. I found the 12th Doctor Volume 1 of his run. So I wanted to grab that while I could see it, and the artwork's actually pretty decent in it as well. It's not too bad. The art's actually pretty good. So I wanted to check it out because I've never actually really read a lot of the Doctor Who comics, so I thought I'll delve into that. And since I'm picking up so it ended up being a bit of a Doctor Who night at Second and Charles for me, not entirely intentionally, but yeah, that was my little haul. So I got quite a bit.
Dude, speaking of indie comics, so my wife has gotten into Lock and Key kick.
Your wife is obsessed with Lock and Key. She has read more Lock and Key than we have.
Oh, combined, probably.
Yeah.
So I had volume 1 and 2. I bought 2 after we had gone through 1 because I thought it was really cool. She then proceeded to buy 3, 4, 5, and 6, and she's read all of them. But dude, it gets so good, man. It's so good. I'm on volume 4 right now, man.
I need to keep going. I have only read up to volume 2. Because I don't get the chance to like go through big runs like that, because I usually like jump to stuff. So because I've not read more of that series, I want to read that one. Oh, I've not read more of that series, so I've got like
if you don't buy it and you want to borrow it, just let me know, man.
I will do. Mallet, which is your favourite Doctor Who? Favourite Doctor? I've got a few answers to that question. I'm very big on a 12th Doctor Peter Capaldi run right now. Nothing to do with the fact that he's an angry old Scotsman. So I don't relate to him at all in any way, and that's why I grabbed this stuff. I'm very big on him, but I always have a soft spot for the 9th Doctor, Christopher Eccleston's, the first one of the new reboot, just because he was my first Doctor. He was the one that like I watched and got into it. Like I watched the 8th Doctor's movie when I was a kid, but I didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
But it was watching the 9th Doctor, like that's that was my intro. That was my I'm into Doctor Who, and I'm like, yes, I'm a fan now. So I'm always got a spot for him. Again, not to mention the fact of like he's a sarcastic doctor that walks about in a leather jacket. So apparently I gravitate to certain doctors.
That's not right up your alley.
Not at all. So apparently I gravitate to certain like versions of the Doctor, but
that's hilarious. I have a confession to make. I've not seen one episode of Doctor Who.
All right, so we know our next sci-fi show we're binging then for you.
Literally not even 1 minute. I've not even seen 1 minute of the show. And I don't know if it's necessarily because I don't want to see it. I just haven't.
I think you would enjoy it, actually.
I know nothing about it, like, other than, like, some of the imagery from it. I know some of this stuff, but I know Mallet. I know. I've lost my geek
Jeffco,
cred.
how's it going?
I've lost my geek cred several times on this show, so I'm not afraid to admit the truth.
Dude, you don't have geek cred anymore. What are you talking about? You gave that up a long time ago. Chunk hasn't either. Well, Chunk, I know what we're talking about next Friday night then. Oh. I am halfway over the shoutouts. Let me raise her.
Either have Isaac Nitro. Yes, I'm not alone.
See, that's the difference though. Like, there's a certain like community over here that has gravitated to Doctor Who, but whereas there's a lot of stuff that you've grown up with, Doctor Who's what I grew up with. It's a British show. It's a British staple. Like when it came back in 2005, there was a massive thing about it coming back.
Okay.
You can and should watch the Angel Statue episode. Yes, Blink, one of the best episodes ever. The Weeping Angels. It's statues that don't move. If you're looking at them, as soon as you stop looking at them, they move.
Dang.
Like, if that's not a horror episode and a half, like.
All right, so the extent of my British like stuff that I liked was I'm a huge fan of Rowan Atkinson.
Oh,
I mean that's about it. I mean, because I wasn't exposed to, obviously, like you said, I wasn't exposed to a lot of stuff like that, like a lot of stuff, a lot of British stuff, or from across the pond.
Yeah, that's actually true, Tom. Tom's saying we should if you watch the one with the Weeping Angels, it's actually a really good standalone, and they are on HBO Max, Chunk. So maybe it is one we'll do for a future show and get you to like jump into it and see if like what you think of it.
I would not mind watching it. I've just never seen it.
So I'm doing some shout-outs. I just realised I've not actually been doing any. I'm like, and there's a ton of people in here, so everyone I'm doing shout-outs for, by all means, go and follow them if you're not already. There are way too many for me to literally name them all at this point. Mallet's saying as well, like, yeah, your first Doctor tends to end up being your favourite because it's the one that usually gets you hooked. No, don't watch it in the dark, Tom. Don't watch Blink in the dark. Like, I still can't look at statues normally now without like taking a second glance at them. But yeah, your first Doctor tends to be the favourite. Mallet's saying like one of his will always be Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor, and he's a lot of people's favourites from like, especially from the older runs, and 100%, he's an amazing Doctor. Tom Baker's the guy that like kids used to run up to in the street, thinking he was the Doctor, and he would literally, without missing a beat, go into character and start talking to them as the Doctor. And I love that. I love that so much.
I'm a David Tennant fan, so I wouldn't mind like checking.
Tennant's Doctor is awesome as well. You would actually probably love Tennant's Doctor.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a huge, not a huge Tennant fan, but I like David Tennant.
Yeah, Tennant's good. Tennant's one of those actors who's got an amazing range to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at the very least we should start, like, if we do, start with like the series 1 of the reboot, like when Christopher Eccleston came back.
Let's do it,
and delve into it. To be fair, we still technically need to do the second half of the Firefly reaction. We never ever did that.
We didn't, did we?
Maybe like through March and April, that's what we should do, like a retake of like all the episodes we still meant to do, because we still need to do like another indie comic book club, or a Superhero Square Go, and we still need to do. Yeah, Tennant's an amazing one, Mallet. He's a great Doctor. So maybe we'll do like March and April to kind of clear that out.
Yeah.
And then following, like when we do,
we should call March and April build Nitro's geek cred months.
Do you know when we could do the reaction? Do you know when we could do the talk? We could do like a watch of the first season and talk through it, and we know where we could do it.
Where?
We could do the episode during the 12-hour stream.
Dude, I'm down.
That could be the one for the 12-hour stream.
I'm down. The statue episode you're talking about?
We could do the statue one as like your
or
introduction.
the first intro. Oh, I see.
I'm thinking we could do that, or we could do do a whole through like watch season 1 and then talk about it, and like you coming in as a blind like non-fan, like what do you think?
Yeah,
because that's what the season 1's designed to do, is to for brand new people who have never seen it before. Like here's your intro to the Doctor.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, man, I'm down. I would not mind watching it for real.
I think you would actually really like it. It's a really fun show. Like in terms of sci-fi, I'm like, and it's very different as well. If you're used to the kind of more sci-fi stuff here, like Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, you know, all the bigger sci-fi stuff from here in the States, it's a very different type of show.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a very different. It's definitely a quintessential British show. There's definitely more Americanism to it now because we're like in season 13 since it rebooted.
Yeah.
Chunk wants to watch it as well. Awesome. By all means, Chunk, yeah, watch it and join in the conversation. That'd be great. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see your kind of input on it and intake on it, and just like not to like watch any of the older stuff or anything like that. Just literally jump in at the reboot and this is what you think.
Sweet. Yeah, man.
Alright, there we go. So that's something set, which by the way, if no one remembers, because we've not really been talking about it because we had our time away and stuff, we are going to be doing a 12-hour stream probably at the end of April, and we're going to be talking more details about that soon. But yeah, we'll do it as part of that if you guys are interested.
Heck yeah, dude.
I want to see us talk about it. Woot from Jethco. Thank you, Jethco. How are you doing as well, Jethco? Sorry, you came in like in the middle of all of that, and I didn't even get a chance to say hi to you coming in. So how are you doing, Jethco? And how's everyone else doing? How's Tom, Mallet, Chunk, Infinity Bros? Who else is here? I'm totally missing people. I can only scroll up so far. If there's anyone I'm missing, I am absolutely sorry. But how are you all doing today?
Raven Knight,
that's right. Raven Knight came in because he was happy that we're delving into the
nudity and language.
Nudity, violence and language.
Yes.
Raven Knights came on the right day. I assume it was the Doctor Who you were talking about. I've never watched it. Yes, we're talking about Doctor Who because I got a whole bunch of Doctor Who comics yesterday, and we're talking about getting Nitro into it. Working on a BattleTech story today. Ooh, that sounds good, Tom. I was going to say to you as well, Nitro, since Tom's in the chat, if you had a chance to check out the comic he sent us.
I have not.
It's in our email. He sent us a PDF for it, Beckett's last mixtape. Go and check it out, because Tom, I might reach out to you because we might bring you on the show to talk about it if you're up for that. Just for you being in the chat, I'm totally throwing this out there off the cuff, the fact that you're in chat and Nitro's there, because I read through it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just the first issue of it. Awesome. He sent us a PDF of it, and I'm like, apparently he was trying to send us like the actual physical copies, and something happened. Apparently they didn't recognise my address for some reason.
Are you serious?
I don't know what happened. I've had plenty of stuff shipped to my house from like everywhere, so I'm like, I don't know why, but but Tom, yeah, absolutely, I'll drop you a message after the show, and we'll work that out, Tom, and get you on.
Alright, I just pulled it up. I did not even realize you sent that. Thank you so much, Tom. I'll definitely take a look at that this week.
Yeah, because I had a chance to read it, and I'm like, this is actually interesting. This is a good conversation piece. So I'm like, yeah, we'll bring him on and talk about it, and give him a chance to push his Kickstarter for it, because it is up on Kickstarter as well. So pretty good. Been playing a lot of Destiny 2 this week, and nice. I have not played Destiny 2 and I don't know how long, Jung. It was one of those games I got really into, like when we first started really doing a lot of streaming stuff, and it's just honestly fallen to the wayside, and I've not touched it in so long.
Dude, I have it too, and I haven't played it in a long time.
Yeah, that's always one of those ones where like I see tons of people playing it. I'm like, should I get back into it at some point and try it?
It's a good game, man. It's a
great game. Like I thoroughly enjoy it when I played it. It's just fallen to the wayside. Like
yeah. But speaking of games, I know we got to get into Mouse, but I saw our intro video. I saw Apex, dude. We got to get into some Apex again. I miss that game. That game is fun.
Do you remember what happened last time we tried to? We hadn't played it in months, and you, me, and Caleb decided, hey, let's do an arena. We got slaughtered.
We did get slaughtered.
We got absolutely obliterated.
No, it's no fun.
Alright, so let's delve into this, because I want to give as much time to this as we can. I wanted to do a little bit of levity, a little bit of intro, and I wanted to talk about the stuff I'd got, because this is where I get to talk about that stuff. And if you guys want me to go through the rest of this box, by the way, please let me know. I'm more than happy to go through it, but like, it's full of stuff I've never heard of from companies I don't know.
We also have our mystery box too.
Well, we're gonna, which I've not opened that. I've still got mine over there from the mystery box. We were going to do an unboxing of stuff that we got, but this is a completely separate one I got last night. And I was totally going to do it on stream, but my wife
Yeah.
told me I had to open it. It was part of my date day stuff, like getting
Nice.
from her, so I had to do it last night.
That's
I'm kind of glad I did, because it would not have been a worthwhile reaction to get on stream. Like, oh,
Are you kidding me?
it's like, what the hell's this? What the hell's this? What the hell's this? Like, well, this is just porn. This is just anime porn. Like, why is this comic in here? Like,
I
it's
don't
like,
want this.
you know what I mean? Like, it's just full of stuff. Like, I have no idea what any of this is. Like, they just came out with a major expansion, so it's a great time to get back into it. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll look at picking it up again at some point. It's one of those things, like, I have very little time to game, so like I have to like dedicate time. Like, that's why I had to create a new stream for like Sea of Thieves, was because like literally I want to play it more and I don't have the time. Which, by the way, excited Chunk for this Friday for you joining us. Chunk's going to be on the crew this Friday, joining myself, Caleb, and Seal. Seal, I think, was the last one to join in. So we've got an interesting crew for this week. And if you want to be involved in our Sea of Thieves crew, now that I'm mentioning it, please by all means drop us a message. I'm trying to just get everyone and anyone involved in it. But let us talk about Mouse. So you said you had it pulled up, so I'm going to hand over to you, Nitro. If you want to talk a little bit about the whole reason behind this, was the controversy of it came out of a Tennessee school, I think it was.
Yeah.
Basically taking Mouse out of its curriculum. So that's what started it all. So, hey Seal, just talking about you, sir, coming in chat there, redeeming. You are, of course, first. Like, what, an hour into the show?
I know. Alright, so basically, the whole controversy around this book started around January 10th, rather. And there was the Board of Trustees at McKinnon County Schools in East Tennessee, in a 10-0 decision, removed Mouse from its school curriculum, expressing concern over its use in 8th grade English lessons, language arts classes. The board cited as its reason rough language and unnecessary profanity, 8 words including damn, a small drawing of a nude cat representing a woman, mentions of murder, violence, and suicide, whether it was age appropriate and what the board deemed the values of the community. One board member said that at one time the author of Mouse had drawn cartoons for Playboy magazine. So basically, there was a huge uproar in this district in Tennessee about whether or not to teach this as part of the curriculum in for their 8th grade, just across the district. So that's going to kind of tie into what we're talking about today. That obviously plays a huge part in why we're talking about it today, and what the ban means, and what we feel about the ban, and and all that stuff. But we're going to also jump into the book as well, obviously. So
yeah, absolutely. We're going to jump into talking about the book like we would with any other indie comic book club, but it definitely spurred it on because Menace is one of those books I had never read before. I'd seen it on the shelf, like I talked about, seen it in shelves in passing, but I didn't really know much about the book. I didn't know anything about it. Had never picked it up, and I heard this book kicking it out, and I was like, and when they were talking about some of the stuff, I was like, really? Is all that stuff in there? And then I started kind of like finding out about the book, and I'm like, well, like for the violence, for example, I'm like I can't speak to the nudity, but I'm like, but the violence, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's talking about the Holocaust.
Yeah. Well, and I remember I was talking to you before the thing, like when I was in I forgot, I think it was in middle school. It definitely was in middle school, so it was like maybe 7th grade. I had to do a report on the Holocaust and Hitler, like specifically like focusing on Hitler, but the Holocaust. I had to go out and do my own research. I had to go to our libraries and stuff like that. The stuff that I read and the stuff that I found was way more intense than what I read in this book. I think what drives this book home is it's told from a personal. That the whole book is told from a personal point of view. This is what I personally experienced in the atrocities. And like we talked about it again.
But you think that's why it would avoid the controversy, though?
Yeah.
Because it isn't just someone making up a story. Like, this is why, like, you can almost, if you want to say it this way, that's why you can almost get away with it.
Yeah.
It's because, why is this in here? It's like, well, this is what happened. This is his life. This is Vladek Spiegelman's life, and what happened to him through the years of the war.
Yeah, and just to kind of pull back a little bit, so Mouse is a 2-volume story, so it's a 2-volume story.
Yeah. So for anyone who hasn't heard, by the way, just be you saying that, like, this is a 2-parter.
Yes.
So this week we are talking specifically on Volume 1, and then next week we're going to do the second part of this, talking about Volume 2. So we're speaking from a perspective of having read this. I have not read Volume 2 yet. I have not read that, so this is completely. If you've read it and know what's coming in volume 2, we have not gotten that far with it yet.
So I don't know if you want to do like a whole like narrative walkthrough, but I mean just at a high level, the story is about a Polish Jew named Wladek Spiegelman and his family, his wife Anja, about their descent into the middle of the Holocaust, basically.
Yeah.
And we're going to go over spoilers here in Volume 1, but the Volume 1 ends. We don't even get into Auschwitz until almost the last page of Volume 1.
Yeah, literally the very end of Volume 1 is them being taken to Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And it wraps up there. So like I can only imagine like some of the stuff that comes in here is very hard hitting.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what's to come in the second volume actually being at Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the narrative structure in the story is basically Vladek's son, Art Spiegelman, who is the author of this book, who's the author and the illustrator of the book, I believe. Mm-hmm. He's basically interviewing his dad. And he's basically getting a first-hand account of the descent from basically the end of the 30s until his liberation, basically until now, where he's talking with his father and him dealing with his emotions and his attitude towards his dad, who's honestly not presented in a flawless light. Like his dad has some issues, and that's an endearing part about this book because like it doesn't whitewash anything. Even the people who survive, like you still have issues. You still might not be like the best person. You still might be dealing with some prejudices yourself. You know what I'm saying? So and it doesn't whitewash over that. It hits it straight in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because it's actually included in this. It's not because it's like he's talking to his father, but there's actual scenes of like. Of the story, like like I've just opened it at the start of one of the random volumes, but like it's him talking to his father and like the conversations they have, and him sitting down and getting the input from his dad and getting like what's the story and asking him questions. So you get this almost like intermingled in each chapter of like there's a good few pages at the start and at the end of kind of wrapping around the story. Sometimes in the middle if they're doing something like one of them they're walking to the bank, so you get like bits intermingled, and it's a really intriguing way of writing the story. Because you're not just in... Because it'd be very easy just to write Vladek's story and just put it in here. Like, there's no reason it couldn't.
Yeah.
And just write that as beginning to end, chronological, this is what happened. It's a very intriguing thing that he included the actual conversations. And he even writes it down in the book himself.
I know.
Conversations, like, I have to go and get a pen and paper because I don't want to forget this conversation. And, like, he's actually writing it down as is and, like...
Yeah, he shows him recording the conversation that he's actually writing at the moment. It's a bit meta.
It's very meta,
really
but it's
cool.
like... It's really cool, so it's not like just him like, oh, I need to record this so I can use it in notes later. It's like, to talk about the story, it's like he talks about the actual book.
Yeah.
Like in the writing of the book and the conversations with his dad. Like his dad's an older gentleman, so like, and even just regular conversations to like get, like like his dad's telling him like about like he has to fix a pipe at the roof sort of thing, and like and telling him you can help me with it. Like he's like, no, I can't. I'm not good at this sort of stuff. Why don't you just hire a guy? Nah, I'm not paying money for a guy. You do it. And like them just walking to the bank and stuff and going to their safety deposit box.
Yeah.
And even like his marriage, like he's Anya's dead at the time of the writing of the book, and like and he's remarried to a family friend, Mala.
Yeah.
I believe her name is. And he's talking to her. They freaking hate each other.
They do hate each other. He does not like her
They
at
do
all.
nothing but complain and moan and bitch at each other.
Yeah.
Or too arty about each other.
And she survived the Holocaust too. She survived the concentration camp. So
yeah, she went to concentration camps as well. She's been to Auschwitz with them and stuff, and like, but Art's like stuck in the middle of these two, like going at each other, and it's like
shuts his dad down every time he tries to like talk.
He's like, no, I'm not talking about it. And then she goes off, and he's like, I felt really funny because there's a scene where like he comes in and she's at the table clearly crying, frustrated with everything, and he comes and sits down, and she starts going off about his dad, and it's almost like a. Well, this thing about the book though is like he keeps going back to the book, and it was like she doesn't care. She clearly doesn't care. Art, shut up, just stop. But like the thing is as well though, it makes it a very endearing story.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like it's not just a case of I'm watching the story of this man and his wife surviving through the experiences of German occupation and being on the run and having to hide and trying not to get shuffled off to Auschwitz, like every opportunity the Germans can take to do it.
There were tons of near misses for him.
Oh yeah, like the fact, I think it's like it ends up being like 1944. He ends up going to Auschwitz, and it's like he was like a year away from the end of the war.
I know.
From not having to go, and he survived so many, not just near misses of going to a concentration camp, but like there was moments like where he was almost killed.
Yeah.
Like there's literally a moment a German like Gestapo just stopped him in the street and put a gun to his head, and is like, and then looked at his paper, so he was like, oh yeah, I know, like his cousin or whatever was like in with him or something, was like the Jew that was running the area, but was like basically working for the Germans, and so he lets him go, and it's like, wow, if I didn't have that paper that said who I was literally about to be dead.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard hitting story, and it's a really compelling story.
Yeah.
But the actual everyday life stuff makes it more humanizing.
Yeah,
I feel more connected to the characters as a whole, you know.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Art did an interview with Vulture about Mouse, and he was basically like, this is not a Christian book. Like, Vladik, his dad, did not become a better person as a result of his suffering. He just got to suffer.
He's a bit of he's actually a jackass. Like, when he sees
really
some of his stuff, he throws, like, randomly, like, the one that really got me, like, I would have been so mad at it. It's like that he goes to get his coat to leave, and he's like, oh, I threw it out.
I know.
What do you mean you threw my coat out? I came to visit and you threw my coat away. Here, wear this one. This is better. I'm like, it's too big for me. I'm like, it's fine. It'll be fine.
I love, like, the next frame, it has him visiting his dad again, and it has a box with an arrow saying new jacket.
Yeah, like, new jacket.
New jacket.
Like, yeah, because like right before that as well, it ends like he's actually digging through the trash, like cans outside, trying to find his jacket, and I'm like, Dad actually threw my jacket out. I'm like, I would be so mad.
Oh, dude, I'd be furious.
I'm like, he's such a jackass. But then again, as well, like his wife Mala, like the two of them are always fighting, but she's mad for a reason. Because she's like, I want to like. He's like, she's just here for my money, and she's like, I'm trying not to live like a poor person. He has hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank.
Yeah.
And he steals like paper towels from places so he doesn't have to buy napkins and tissues.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like, it's real life stuff, and like, so his dad isn't like this amazing person.
No.
But at the same, you know, it's like sometimes the bad guys get away. Like there's people that he meets that are Jewish, that are like working with the Jewish police for the Nazis, who are horrible people who you want to see get a comeuppance, and they don't. It's like, yeah, they survived and they lived life, and then the one who was like their brother, who was really nice to us and helped us in the shoe shining place, and like he ends up dying. He ended up having a stroke or a seizure on the street, and by the time his wife got back with medicine, he was dead. It's like the good guys don't always come out on top. The bad guys don't always get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
But there is something about Vladik that is very endearing.
I agree.
He's like, he's a real person.
Yeah, the fact that he's not painted in he's this holier than thou type of persona. Like, he's got like major flaws. Like, as we would consider major flaws, like prejudices and just you're dealing with anger, and you're just not really a nice person.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? And it'd be really easy not to paint him like that and paint him in this perfect light.
Yeah.
Because he's a Jew in World War II occupied Poland.
Well, and I should add,
he's the hero. He's a good guy. It's like the Germans are the bad guys. He's one of the people that are being downtrodden, that are like trying to survive, and like it'd be so easy to paint him in a great light. And he's like, no, but that's a bit of an ass.
Yeah. And I should add, like, the book ends with basically Art calling his dad a murderer and like cursing him out, basically.
But yeah, like he goes off at the end for like, because his mom Anya has wrote like books during their time, like in the latter years of the war, and then through Auschwitz as well. And he's like, I really want to get those and read them, because it's going to flesh out that side of the story. Because he mentions when they go to Auschwitz how they're split, men and women, into separate groups. Yeah. And he's like, awesome, I'd love to get those stories. And he's like, his dad's been saying, we'll look for them, we'll find them. And his dad's like, I remember I destroyed them.
Burn them.
And Art goes off on one of them, and I'm like, to be fair, like, yeah, it was his wife that had like died. He was trying to get rid of everything. I'm like, he wasn't thinking my son's going to be writing a comic about this. So
yeah. And I guess part of the narrative that we're missing, as far as context goes, is after the war, Vladik's wife ended up committing suicide in their tub. Like I think she slit her wrist, if I'm not mistaken, and Vladik is the one who found her. So like he's dealing with some like super deep trauma,
which even then they kind of address in a very interesting way.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's probably one of the main causes of controversy with this whole banning thing, because it shows her kind of naked in the tub. But keep in mind, these are all the depictions of people in this book are all anthropomorphic animals.
yeah.
Like the Jews are
Let's
represented as mice, the
yeah.
Nazis are represented as cats, all that stuff.
Just to make sure, let's not hold the image up of like her in the
Oh, I
tub,
didn't. I
because
didn't.
I'm just making
Yeah.
sure. I'm like, let's just not do that, because I don't know what Twitch terms of service will do to that one. So I'm like, I don't want to
Yeah,
get the
I
channel
gotcha.
banned over it.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's like, but it's real, because like in this other comic, it's like what's it even called? I can't even remember the full name. Something from Hell Planet.
Oh yeah.
Prisoner on the Hell Planet: A Case
Yeah.
History.
Yeah.
And it's like they're caricatures, but they're like real life, like they're human looking, and it's him talking about dealing with what he was going through, which art seemed to be like from his character, the main character, and it seemed to be going through a bit of depression at the time,
Yeah.
and this harsh relationship with his father, which isn't that much better as he's writing this book. And then we see like her in the tub, and you do see like a shot down like this of her in the tub, and it's like, and she's clearly killed herself, but like her breasts are like seen,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, is that it? Is that the nudity that?
It's to be honest, it's the size of a quarter, and two, it's in black and white, and three, she's like a mouse. I mean, like, really? Is this where we're gonna ban the book? Is this why we're doing this?
But it's like it's her in the tub like that, and it's like and it's like, again, it's human, because it's the the Planet one and it's Planet Hell, so it's more human looking, and I like, it's not like there's a freaking strip club scene or something. It's not like it's
Yeah.
a sexual nature.
Hmm.
It's his mom like dead in the bathtub, and I'm like, if you're getting your jollies off to that, then there's something seriously wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like, if that's something you're taking from that, it's like, wow, you're messed up.
Hmm.
It's like, it's not that sort of. It's not what I would call nudity. It's what I'd call someone who's naked.
Yeah.
And I use that description as in there's a very big difference.
Yeah.
If you're talking about nudity, I would say that's more sexualized.
Yeah. I would agree.
That's like seeing something more sexual, like seeing a sexy scene in a film, something going on, someone taking their clothes off.
Yeah.
Like, that's nudity. This is someone who just happens to be naked.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like it's a very big thing, and the way they say it, like, oh, there's nudity in the book, makes it sound like it's a sexualized thing, and it is really not.
No.
Not even close.
Mm-mm.
And I'm like, I mean, the closest we get to anything sort of like that is that there's two people sleeping in bed next to each other. Like,
Yeah.
that's about as close as you get to anything sexualized, and this is not that sort of book. It's not got that sort of content in it. It's not a necessity for this book
Just
and
to,
story.
just to talk a little bit about the band as well before we kind of get deeper into the comic. Like, I know, you and I are obviously dads, and like we are very cautious about what type of material we let our kids watch or look at
100%,
or
yeah.
talk about. I understand. I can empathize, I guess, with the spirit of the band a little bit. I don't agree with the band. I don't think it's right. I can empathize a little bit because as dads, I'm not gonna teach my 5-year-old little Nitro. I'm not gonna walk her through the birds and the bees at 5 years old, right?
No.
That being said, I'm not gonna hide stuff from her too. Like, I'm gonna be straight up with her as I think she's able to handle.
Exactly, and I
Now,
think that's the context to it as well. Is like, yeah, that's a very
yeah,
big thing of like us making a judgment on that. Like,
yeah,
because like, would I let my kids read this? No, but then again, my kids are like 5, 3, and 1.5.
exactly.
Of course I wouldn't let them read this. I'm like, so look,
Mhm.
speaking as a dad, like, would my kids read this? My automatic instincts, no.
Yeah,
But like, my oldest is different because he's autistic, so his mind's going to function at different levels. But if we
yeah,
take my first neurotypical child, like my daughter,
hmm,
she's 3 right now. In 10 years, when she's 13,
hmm,
which is the year that the age range for the 8th graders who would have been reading this, about 13,
yeah,
14 years old,
yeah,
would I want her to read this book? Yeah, at that age I would have no issue with it.
yeah,
As long as I was aware what she was reading,
exactly.
aware of the content, which I am now. I've read the book, I know what's in there,
Yep.
and being open to having a conversation with her about it. Because there is some harsh stuff in here. The
Yeah.
nakedness, I don't care about. There's nothing in there that I would say that's something to be worried about. Like, there's a woman in a bathtub that has breasts. I'm like, especially for her, I'd be like, you're a girl, you've got breasts, you know what they look like,
Yeah.
at 13.
Yeah.
It's like,
It is what it is.
you know. The violence, yeah, there's some very hard-hitting moments when you realise, like the moment when Vladik's friends that he done a lot of black market running for different things, under the table to try and keep money coming in, and at one point a bunch of the people he's working with are captured by the Gestapo, and they are beaten and tortured, and you see the image of the mice hanging by their necks.
Yep.
They're hung, and I'm like, yeah, that's a harrowing image, because it's not just the image hits hard, and then there's the realization that they're real people. This wasn't these caricatures in a story that this happened to, which is hard hitting enough.
Yeah.
But this was real Jews, and they were left hanging in that street for a week.
Yeah.
Or like when they're talking about like how the kids started being killed, and it doesn't show it on panel, it shows it off panel, but it's done well enough that you don't lose the impact of it. Of the Germans swinging children by their ankles and smashing them against walls so that they would stop screaming. This is real life. This happened.
It's really happened.
Yes, is that going to have an impact on her? I hope so. I want it to, and I want her to. I want my daughter, by the time she's at 13, or my sons as well, by the time they're at that age, to be critical thinkers, and to look at something like that and understand the context of it and why it's there. This isn't like watching a horror movie that's a bloody slasher that's violent for violence sake, or watching something like one of the Saw movies where, you know, later on it literally was just torture porn, where we're going to throw this stuff in here for the sake of it, for dramatic, oh look at that, it's so gruesome. This isn't that. If it was that, I'd be like, do you really need to be looking at that? It's not worth it. You know, but at the time as she starts to kind of get to a certain age, she'll make those choices herself as well, and I'll try and guide. But when it comes to stuff like this, I'm like, yeah, 100% you should see this. Because I want my daughter to be ready for what's out in the world and how horrible people can be. Look for the best in people, but be aware of the worst that can happen. And
I mean,
to have a discussion about it, to have a discussion with her of like, this actually happened.
You said it like, I want my kids to eventually read this, but you would know. You know what's in there. You've been through it, or you've been through the book rather. You know what's in there, and you're able to kind of walk them through that thought process wise, what they're reading, what this actually meant, what type of impact this really had, and you're able to kind of go alongside them. And that's where I kind of don't agree with that's where I don't agree with the ban. Like,
no,
I think,
absolutely not.
I think kids at that age they're old enough to be able to handle that with some guidance from maybe some adults. Like, for instance, if this was me and I lived in that district and my 8th grade kid was getting ready to go through this book, I'd be like, okay, thank you for letting me know. I know that I am going to be having some discussions with them as they're reading this. As they're reading this book.
Tell me about the book. Like, if they gave me a thing of saying, hey, we're going to be covering the Holocaust in class. And this is some of the books that we're going to read. Here's some of the content that's in them if you want to go and have a look and check it out and make sure this is okay, stuff that you are prepared for to talk to your child about. Like, not even give the parents a choice in that sense of like, this is what we're going to teach. I don't have an issue with my kid reading that stuff in school as long as there's a conversation. I don't have an issue with him bringing stuff in school that talks about like looking at, like, you know, a lot of Christians would have issues with the fact that like, we're teaching them about like even stuff like homosexuality and same-sex marriage and all that. Like, I don't have an issue, especially at 13, them reading stuff in that positive light, because this is the world we live in, and I want to be able to have discussions with them and talk to them. I don't want it to be a, you shouldn't be reading this. At 13 years old, have you met teenagers? I work with teenagers. If you told me like that, oh, you're banned from reading this book, I'd be like,
I'm reading that tomorrow.
What's in it? Must be some good stuff in there. I'm going to go read it. And that's it. It's not a case of like, you know, it's not like somebody's bringing a Playboy up to the school for their like, you know, big reading assessment or something like that. It's like it's not like someone's like going to this big gory like thing, looking at all this horrible violence and, you know, like dropping F-bombs left, right and centre. It's like, it's someone's real life account of what happened in the Holocaust, and it's real life. Like, there's language, barely. There's a few. We have literally done comics on this show where there's more, and I still wouldn't even consider them having a lot.
We have cursed more on this show than I think there are curses in this book. For real, I'm being serious.
Oh yeah, probably. Actually, yeah, we have. Like we try to watch
Oh.
our language, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
sometimes
nothing
it
worse than
happens.
you'll hear on here, probably.
No, no.
But you know, it's that, and I think that's the thing because there's so big thing people like that. You know, should parents be able to affect the curriculum? And I'm like, to a certain extent, yes and no. Because depending what it is, if you tell me like the book's going to have like violence and nudity and all this and bad language and all this stuff, I want to know what my kid's reading. And if I
Yes,
don't think my kid should be reading that, I don't want them to be exposed to it.
correct.
But at the same time, I think we also need to take a step back and look at the context of it. If it's something that's gratuitously over the top, like why? Why are you looking at that in school?
Yeah.
If it's something that's not like this, where it's talking about something that's a real life historical event, imagine if someone said that, like, we're not going to talk about 9/11.
Wow.
I can speak to that right now more because I was alive when that happened. I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I remember coming home from school because I was in Scotland, so it was like afternoon by the time we found out. I got home from school, turned my TV on, and seeing the images
Mm-hmm.
that America was waking up to of what happened there. I still remember being in shock watching it.
Yeah.
What the hell just happened?
Yeah. I was a freshman in college. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I still remember that, and I'd be like, "Oh, we're not going to talk about that." It's like, "Oh my, oh, well, there's violence in it. There's horribleness, and all this violence and stuff happened." And I'm like, "It's like, well, yeah, it was a real life tragic event. There's going to be stuff like that." There was cussing, and I'm like, planes flew into the Twin Towers. I think more than one person probably cussed at that situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't blame
I
them.
cussed at Endgame. My Avengers Endgame. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, shouted that out for the whole thing. You were loud, man.
I was.
But you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, I get it.
it's a real life situation. It's a real life context, and it's like they need to be exposed to stuff that isn't just because see the ages when they become a teenager. That's kind of the whole point. As the children, we try to guide them as best we can, but when they hit those teenage years, kids are trying to figure out who they are. At the age this book's being taught, people are trying to figure out who they are, and it's a questioning of what do you like, what do you not like, who are you as a person, what do you stand for, what do you stand against. And I dang well want my kids to read a book like this and go, that's what I'm against.
Yeah.
I'm against Nazis. I'm against people trying to commit genocide on a group of people. I want my kids to be aware of the horribleness that can happen and go, if that starts to happen again, that's not right.
Look, man, like, so I was raised by a single mom, and so speaking of, like, sheltered kids, I was a very sheltered kid because, she wanted to protect me from everything that she could, and I totally get that. I love her, and I appreciate everything she did. But what that did in turn is made me want to seek it out on my own.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
100%.
not what you want. That's not what you want for your kid. That's not what you want for kids. You want to kind of be able to walk alongside them through the crap, through the awful stuff, and kind of teach them along the way. And that's what we're kind of saying. Like being able to understand what's in the book, being able to walk your kid through. Yeah, this is awful. This is some awful, just awfully bleak stuff. But this is why this can never happen again.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. That's what it's meant to be. It's you should be able to look at this stuff and have conversations. And I say that with most stuff with our kids.
Yeah.
Like I want my kids to be exposed to stuff because I would rather they got exposed to it at that age for stuff that's the real world.
Yep.
And be able to have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah.
Than not tell them anything about real life stuff. And then them all of a sudden when they get 18 and are thrown out into the real world,
What is this?
Because heaven forbid you don't talk to your kid about something.
Yeah.
And then they hit 18, they leave high school. If you're like most kids, especially here in the States, you go to a college that's states away.
Yeah.
You can go to a college we're on the East Coast, you can go to a college that's on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And be a completely different side of the country from your parents.
Yep.
And then you get exposed to stuff where like parents no longer have any sort of input. And the input becomes other people round about them, and I'm like, I want my kids to be prepared for stuff. I don't want them to be thrown into stuff like, what's this, what's that, what's this, and end up going into stuff that with the wrong mentality, wrong attitude, and get dragged into the wrong stuff. Like that's insanity as far as like I'm concerned. I'm like, why would you do that to your kid?
Chunk said, I was in high school and in a study hall, and the teacher walked in and turned on the TV and said, "This is history in the making," and the images on TV were horrifying.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Like for I'm saying this for 9/11, and it's like, yeah, when horrible things like that happen, like, can you imagine? Because think about it now, we're 20 plus years on from 9/11.
Yeah.
We were in our teens when that happened. It's crazy to think that we're in a world where there's people who are now like, you become basically a full-fledged adult in here when you're like 18 to 21.
Yeah.
There are people who are now adults who were not alive during that.
That's crazy.
And how easy it could be to start to change the narrative.
Yeah.
So what about something like this where we are a couple of decades away from the 100-year anniversary?
Yeah.
The war started in 1939.
Mm-hmm.
World War II started in 1939, and it's like we're less than 2 decades from the 100-year anniversary of World War II.
Yep.
Like, this isn't that long ago, but yet the narrative's already starting to be changed by some people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like them taking out this, I understand the reasons that it was taken out the curriculum, but I 100% believe this is more beneficial than it is harmful.
Yeah, I agree.
For our kids to be taking something that's in. And not to mention as well, like, from a completely subjective point of view, as comic book fans, if you ever want impact, that comic books are more than just picture books for kids.
Yep.
How impactful a medium it is. I am more impacted reading this than I probably would be reading about Vladek Spiegelman's life in a novel.
Yep.
In a book. Like, something about this hits perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, I 100% don't agree with the schools taking it out, because I think there's more harm to it. I understand what they did, and it's not like, and don't get me wrong, we're not at the point of like cancelling books and having book burnings or anything like that. Yeah, we're not at that stage. It's not that bad. But I don't know how many kids will pick this up without it being part of their course.
Yeah.
And I think them not reading a story like this, I think it loses an impact. This hit me in a massive way.
Mm-hmm.
Getting connected to Vladek and Anya and their story. It's like, yeah, I think you missed something with that.
I agree.
But I wanted to delve in a little bit into the story and go into a little bit more of the finer points of it as well. Because obviously we've talked a little bit about the overall air around it, what the book kind of covers, and talked about the controversy. But I want to actually talk about the actual story now and talk about Vladek's life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as I said to you, the first chapter, there's 6 chapters in this volume.
Mm-hmm.
The first chapter's got nothing to do with the war, pretty much. The first chapter is literally Vladek talking about how he met Art's mother. And the story is like literally like he was actually, he was a young man about town, had all these lady friends and different stuff, and was actually kind of involved with this other woman and, in a relationship with her, and she was a bit of obsessed.
Apparently. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, like, she was mental.
Yeah.
She was like Bunny Boiler level of stuff, you know what I mean? It's like she was like completely...
To the point where she would fall on the ground and wrap her arms around his leg to keep him from leaving.
Yeah, like she was obsessed. And then he just like met her one day, met Anya. And the two of them really hit it off. And it's this great little like slice of life story of the two of them getting together and getting engaged.
Yeah.
And then they had their first son, which even that was heartbreaking in the book when they talk about their son. And
Dude,
they
didn't even get to see him until he was like 2.
Richev and... But like, yeah, when they're like, yeah, we came out of the war, he didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he was a kid? Because I thought, oh, like, Art's got an older brother. And I'm like, no, he's dead. I'm like, oh, wow, that just took a downward spiral there. Wow,
yeah.
Awesome. But like, even after she has a child, like, she has, Anya has postpartum depression. It's back in like the 1930s, so to deal with that stuff, they have to go to specialised places. So at this point as well, like, he's connected with her father, who's helped him. He used to do like textile work, and he's running like a textile factory. So the father takes over, gets people to run his factory because he has to take her to, is it Czechoslovakia, something like that, where there's like a place to go for like help with postpartum depression. It's this big care home almost, but it's like the big fancy ones you would see in a movie for a care home.
Where Art
like,
actually lived with her there. Yeah.
Yeah, Art moved with her, and the two of them lived there, and he ended up helping her through it, and that place helped her, and they came back. And it's on that train ride back that I can't even remember where is it they're going through.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now.
Yeah, whatever it is, they go through one of the cities on the way there. Hey, Karsten, how's it going, sir? Good to see you. You're in just in time. We're getting into the main part of the stories of Mouse. But thank you for coming in.
This was the panel. It was in Czechoslovakia when they're looking out the train and they first saw the swastika.
Yeah, and they see the swastika and they're basically like, oh, that's that, the Nazi thing, and that's the thing, because remember when the Nazis first came around, they were just a political party, and it started kind of spreading, and people were like, oh yeah, I hope it doesn't last long. That's not going to be a major thing. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
And it's played off very lightheartedly, but like when you hit that bit in chapter 1, as I said, like that's the moment where it's like, oh, this is about to get really bad.
Yeah, this is real.
And that's it, and that's basically chapter 1. They get back home, they go back to living their life, and there's nothing much more to it. It literally is like a little slice of life comic. But then chapter 2 hits and things start to change. Do you want to start taking us through that?
Yeah, you're better at that than I am. But I can jump in whenever you need me.
Yeah, sure. So chapter 2 is called The Honeyman. Hold on, I need to try and flick and remember what happens in what chapter now.
I think we kind of crossed into chapter 2 talking about the Czechoslovakia and the honeymoon type stuff.
Yeah.
They stayed on the thing. War did break out, obviously, with Germany in chapter 2.
Oh, yeah, that's at the start of chapter 2. Sorry, I thought it was the end of chapter 1 that we hit the flag. Alright, so yeah. So we're into chapter 2, so the honeymoon is that, and... Okay, so we're that's basically the first 2 chapters. So, the first 2 chapters are literally slice of life.
Yeah.
I mean, that means the whole first chapter there, sorry, I got confused, but the whole first chapter is literally no mention of the war.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when you come through those first 2 chapters how all of a sudden the next 4 chapters very quickly escalate.
Yeah. It's definitely a sense of impending doom, like in the first couple chapters, I feel.
I think that's it, as the reader, because we know what's coming, like you can sense you can sense it. And I think the thing I said to you, and I want to put this out there as well, like with the next chapters, like I don't think I realised, like hearing stories of what happened to the Jews during World War II, I didn't realise how slow a burn it was.
Yeah.
I didn't realise just what little changes were made at each stuff. Because you hear about them getting like rounded up and taken to concentration camps and getting gassed, and you hear about all this stuff and you just think, oh, it was just like right away.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was like little changes and little steps that you could almost like, knocking my headphones off, so like you could almost accept them.
Yeah.
You can almost think, oh well, they're only like, oh, we're going to move all the Jews to this area. Oh well, they're only moving us here. We're still allowed to live and still allowed to work, and oh, your businesses, you're not allowed to own them anymore. But it's okay, a German's coming in to own the business and you can keep working here.
Yeah.
And you can do stuff like this. So we start to kind of get exposed to this stuff. Hold on, I'm trying to get past the so before that stuff even happens, it's like Germany basically declares war at the end of the second chapter. So chapter 3 literally picks up that he's now enlisted in the Polish army.
Yep.
So like Vladik's now in the military. He got like a few days training. Like, okay, here's a gun, go. And all that that Art even says that, like, wait a minute, you only got a few days training. And like, oh yeah, like I was in the military before, and I'm like, I don't think that's why you got a few days training. I think that's literally all they were giving you.
It tells a not really funny story, but tells a story about his dad, Vladik's dad, because his dad had 2 sons, and he talks about how, because they would enlist you in the Polish army, and you could be gone for 25 years. Like
his dad was in the military for like a long time.
So he basically, so they would let you know when you were going to be, you would have to go in for basically your exam to get enlisted. and he would basically starve his sons. Like, he would starve his sons, he would sleep deprive them, so when they got to the exam, they would just look awful, and they wouldn't accept them, and then they would have to go back and do it again in like a year.
And he would do that like every time they tried to enlist his sons, to the point of like where Vladik literally argued with him, like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, he did it once, like, I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it again. Just let me enlist in the army. I'm not doing it again.
So where he would rather go risk his life than be tortured like that.
I like this, but that's it though, like, and that makes you think, like, I want to know kind of his dad's story and what the heck happened to his dad, because that's intense.
Yeah.
To want to keep your sons out of the military so badly that that's what you're going to do to them.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting. I think it's a really interesting take on military, especially for being like here in the States, because that's something that was a really big thing for me moving to the States, was like how massive a deal the military is here.
Yeah.
Like in the UK, we've got an army, we've got a military, we've got, my cousins were in the military and stuff like that. We've got people who are enrolled, but but like, over here, like, it's this whole other level.
Oh yeah.
Of like getting enlisted in the military here. It's this like weird, like, greatest thing ever, and it's like it's on a higher level than I've seen in any other country. And that's just from being raised, that's the way it is here in the States. But like coming from the UK, it's totally different.
Yeah.
So you read a story like this where
That's
it's like where you get an interesting take on the military of like his dad hated it so much and found it so torturous that he's like, I do not want my sons involved. And it's almost a good thing that Vladik did get himself enrolled, because to then be thrown into World War II, not that he got to do much military wise, he wasn't in the military for long.
It shows him killing for the first time ever. Shows him killing a German officer.
Which I love the fact he was in the trenches, like they dig in trenches near a river, and it's like, yeah, we're going to put these new guys on the front line, and he actually manages to kill a German officer, and then it's like, but that's it. It's like he kills one guy, and it's like, but they end up finding because the guy's like wearing like a tree. Basically, he's wearing branches to try and get through, and Vladik still shoots him.
Yeah,
and then almost immediately,
moving.
Then almost immediately the Germans find him.
Yeah, and capture him.
They
put him in like a POW camp.
Yeah.
And this is where I thought it was going to start going south, like sideways. Like, okay, this is where he gets to the concentration camp.
Yeah, I thought this was it. I thought, like, oh wow, he's going to prison very quickly here. Like, I didn't get much of the in between, and it's like, I love as well. Like, can I just say, like, I love the fact of like he's told to, like, he's one of the young guys, so he's enlisted by the Germans to help like pick up their dead soldiers and move them, and he's like, oh, I think I seen one over here. It takes him over to the body he shot, and I'm like, how did they not pick up the fact that like he very specifically knew where that body was?
Yeah.
Like, and not think he's the one that shot them. Like, seriously.
So there's a lot of details in this thing that I'm probably gonna miss.
Yeah. We're probably not gonna get every detail in this book, 100%.
But he basically gets put in a POW camp, which is not a concentration camp. But the conditions are awful. And then there's kind of this sign that says, "Hey, workers are needed. If you volunteer for work, we will put you in better barracks, and you'll have more food." Yeah. So he kind of convinces himself and others of his friends there to sign up for that. And it says that he's going to be released to his hometown, and he puts where his hometown is, and they put him on a train, and they just pass right by his hometown.
Yeah, just go right past it. Can I say as well, when he's in the prisoner of war camp, by the way, I wanted to mention this a little bit. Like, because they talk about how they don't have enough food, they're getting like one meal a day, and how freezing it is because they're all in tents and it's nearly winter.
Yeah.
And Vladik takes up like bathing in the river daily, and they all think he's nuts. Hey, Space Hobo, good to see you, sir. Welcome on in. But like, yeah, Vladik's like bathing in the river, and he goes like, yeah, because by comparison, I'll be warm all day.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's either brilliant or insane, and I'm not sure which. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not quite sure which, but like it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
But so they end up going like right past his hometown, which they get taken to work when they get taken to work, it's like they actually get rooms and beds and a stove, and they're basically mining. Which I still don't quite know what they were doing.
Yeah.
They were like taking the dirt from this hill. It's like they were on a hill mining, and there's like this big gap up to the next hill.
They
were basically flattening it, so they were taking the dirt from here into that hole.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but that was their job, and I don't know if there was actually a reason for that or just
the appropriate thing to do.
Or just the Germans decided we need to get them to do something.
Yeah.
Fill a hole with what? That. Make it flat. Like, why? Because. But yeah, as you said, he's getting on the train. They're trying to take him home. And it's like, is it Sosnowiec? I don't know if I'm even saying that right, but that's how I've been pronouncing it in my head, so I'm going to go with it. And it goes right past there.
Mm-hmm.
And where does it ends up? Is it Lublin he ends up?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to say, I knew it wasn't Warsaw, because I know he went past there. So yeah, Lublin. So he's basically taken to another prisoner of war camp. It was like, and they took us to bigger tents, and and the Jewish authorities came to see them and stuff like that. And
I forgot how he negotiated to get out of the POW camp, but one of his friends or relatives knew some of the guards at the POW camp, and he arranged.
Yeah, so like the Jewish officers who like are working alongside the Germans, had basically managed to wriggle a deal that they could go and stay with relatives in the nearby area, and he knew a family friend that lived in the area, so they basically said they were going to forge some paperwork to make it look like he was the cousin.
That's right.
So he could go and live. Sorry, I heard something make a noise in my room. I think there's a cat in here somewhere. Which I like. Which I love the fact, by the way, like for him, like traveling, because he goes to stay with the cousin, and basically is like, okay, I need to get home. I need to find my way back home. Which I love that frequently in this. I don't know if you can see it from some of these panels, but like he's literally wearing a pig mask.
Because the Polish people are
the Poles are like depicted as pigs, so the mouse wears a pig mask, and I'm like, and all I can think in my head is, what did you actually do to pass as a Pole?
Yeah.
As Polish then, like, what did you do? Because obviously you couldn't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Unless you were wearing something on your face to like cover up Jewish features. Like I'm like, what did you actually do? I kind of need to know. But I love that he did it to like that the Poles like hated the Germans as well, so he kind of like bad talks the Germans to the conductor, so he'll let them on the train and hide them if someone comes by, and he's able to get back home and see his family and stuff. And like
he meets his son for like the first time in 2 years.
Yeah, I think 2.5 years old he is. Like it's like he's 2.5, and it's like that's insane.
Yeah.
But then we get into chapter 4 called the Noose Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's their life now in Sonswick, where he's staying, which I know I'm probably horribly pronouncing that place.
It's okay. I can't pronounce that either.
But like all the family are staying together. Like there's how many of them was it? It was like 12 of us living in my father-in-law's household. So like, there was all these people living together in the house, all this family.
I'm not gonna say all these names, but yeah, it was basically him and his wife and her family and his son.
Yeah, and he's like, he starts then asking like, "Hey, how's the textile factory been while I've gone?" And like, "Have you not heard?
They took it.
You don't have a textile factory anymore. The Germans own it now.
Yeah.
They came in and took everything." So this becomes like the start of his like black market business, which he literally does throughout the war. He is a grifter, by the way. He is like
he's scrappy, dude.
He's an under the table dealer, man. He makes it everywhere he goes. It's like Vladik gets right stuck in. He basically
because there's one where there's a Jewish friend of the family that makes uniforms for the Nazis, and I think Vadik is trying to get a job. He said, "If you can get me material, I'll pay you."
Yeah, because he says I make suits on the side, but I can only do it when I've got the material. So Vladik says, "Aha, chance for a job here. I can go get material." But he basically has to go get material, but he doesn't have coupons. You need coupons to buy and sell.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically goes in and says to her, like, he's like, "Look, I can't. What is it?" So I went to the shops that still owed me money from before the war.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I can't pay you. Like, I don't own the business anymore. It's a German owned. I can't just give you." And he's like, "Well, give me an advance and a few yards of material without coupons." And he's like, "Okay, calm down."
Hide this under your clothes.
And literally, that's how it starts. He basically just keeps going back and doing this, like under the table.
He's scrappy. He will find a way to make money.
Yeah, I've got to give it to him. Like, he does this a lot. But yeah, he goes to do that, and then like obviously the Germans start to kind of inspect a bit more thoroughly on stuff and start to look into a bit more stuff.
I feel like the next couple of chapters are just basically no pun intended, but the noose tightening around the Jewish people, and it just shows how their movements are getting more and more and more restricted. and
Yeah.
more violence is happening. Like the panel where those Jewish people are hanging, and it's talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, because at the start of chapter 3 is almost like a. It's almost like a Roman occupation in a sense of like where it's like the Romans would invade places and like just follow our laws, but yeah, you can keep all your stuff and do what
Yeah,
else you do. Like we're going to own your businesses and take part of the money. You can
yeah,
still work here and do your own thing and live life, and you won't get as much food, but you still get food. So it's like
hmm
it's almost like not that bad a deal.
yeah,
Like at
yeah.
that point, you're almost like
We're
this.
not gonna kill you. Yeah.
Like this could have been worse. Like if this is all it is, and I'm like, it's not amazing.
hmm
We're having to grift to get money and get by, but it's like we can make this work. It's
Yeah.
like we're still able to live, and it's like I mean I'm sure it felt horrible at the time, but like compared to what's about to come, it's like this is okay.
hmm
Um, but then they start to come in, and there's this weird thing I didn't quite understand the next part of it, but it's like this weird thing like the Germans would come and just start taking furniture from homes.
hmm
So like they have to like almost swindle it and hide their furniture
Yeah, that was awkward.
and try to convince them to keep a bed because like he's is it Anya's grandmother is like sick or her mother no her mother um, is sick with gallstones and like so they're like can she keep a bed she's not able to stand or rest anywhere and then like they do a whole thing of like trying to sell the furniture because then there's a German guy that can that's buying it and like they go to sell it and it's like oh yeah you lied to us that this stuff was here so we're not paying you
Yeah.
just be grateful we're not doing worse. Literally nothing they can do, and just
Yep.
take it and just take the stuff. And then, even walking around, you start to see more. It's like he says one time he's going to see Ilzeki, one of his friends, and he's like, and something terrible was going on. Like literally, the streets are full of Jews being beaten
Yeah.
by German soldiers, and like he sees his friend, and they smuggle him into his house and like just stay here until this dies down. And that's when he talks to Ilzeki about their children. He's like he's going to try and get his son out of town, and he's like, and he says we could take Khrushchev as well. We
hmm
could take your son and we could send him as well, so he's safe.
Yeah.
And I love the kind of sorrow in Vladik's voice during this because he's like, we didn't do it. Like Anya's like, I'm never giving up my child. I couldn't imagine doing that. And he's like, I wish we had.
Yeah.
Because although Ilzeki and his wife didn't make it out of the war, their son lived. Getting him out when they did was the best thing, and he lived, whereas our son didn't.
Yeah.
Even though we survived, and it's like, oh, that's hard hitting.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough.
But then as the news starts to tighten, pun totally intended for this part because all the people he done the black market trading with are strung up in the city square.
Yeah.
They're hung, and it says they're left there for a week.
Yeah.
And Vladik wouldn't go out. He says, I can't walk past them. And he's like, and I'm terrified to go out because if one of them was tortured, they might have squealed and told them about me.
Yeah.
So he's basically like waiting any moment that the Germans are going to come and get him, and are going to come and take him.
One of the most interesting things that happens multiple times in this book is it shows like it basically, for lack of better words, a diagram on how they hid people from
Oh
from,
yeah,
from the German officers. Like I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this on stream, but this is one of the examples where it shows a barn basically and how they
yeah,
hid. I think it was Anya's grandparents, I believe.
yeah. It was her
Behind
grandparents.
behind a false wall because they were 90 years old, and basically the known fact, the known but unsaid fact was that anybody over 70 was just going to be taken to a
Yeah.
concentration camp and
At that
gassed.
point, it was like anyone,
Yeah.
any Jews that were over 70, and they basically made it look like it was going to be this big getaway, like this big massive care home, and it was going to be lovely.
Yeah.
And that was a lie, obviously. And what they did was take anyone that was 70 and older and take them to Auschwitz.
hmm
At this time, there was rumblings of Auschwitz being a thing, but they didn't really know
Yeah.
that it was a thing yet. Not at this stage. So they created like hiding places, which Vladik was like freaking like see for a scrappy dealer he was, by the way. Like see some of the stuff he builds later, like some of these hiding places.
Yeah, dude.
Like it's ingenious. Like
I know.
I don't know how he did it, but it's like, but yeah, basically they hide them, but they keep getting invaded by the Jewish police who are working with the Nazis, and basically like these two are still listed here, and they're like at first they're like, oh, they left, they didn't tell us where, and like time and time again they come and it's like, look, either you tell us where the grandparents are, or we're taking her mother and father.
Yeah.
We're taking these people in place of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, so they're talking to like, and so they eventually have to give them over.
Yeah.
And it says, but they went right away to Auschwitz and to the gas. So that was the last time they seen them.
Yeah. Towards the end of the chapter, kind of like a big roundup happens.
Yes,
Of
the
a bunch of Jewish
stadium.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of Jewish people in the town. They're taken to that stadium. I forgot the name of the stadium.
Yeah, I can't remember the stadium, but basically they're taken to a big stadium, and
Yeah.
they're wheedled
Basically,
out.
they're divided in half.
Yeah, there's people. They're wheedled out of like, what sort of work do you do? What sort of papers do you have?
Yeah.
Half of them are sent to the right, and half of them are sent to the left. Like Vladik, along with his family, and because of the work he's doing, he's working in the carpentry shop at the time, I think. So he goes to like a table his cousin's working at, and him and his wife and son get taken to the right, which is the side you want to be on.
Yeah.
And his father is taken to the right along with them, but his sister, who, how many kids is it she's got? 4, and they're like, that's too many. And her and her kids are sent to the left. And his father ends up like jumping a barbed wire fence, if the comic is accurate, to go and help her, because he's like, she can't take care of 4 kids alone. And all those people
were never seen.
Yeah, all it says is, and those on the bad side never came home anymore. And it's like, that was it. Anyone who went to the left, they weren't seen again. And it's just terrifying to think of. It's like, just like that, like they're separated.
Yeah.
And all these people that are separated onto the left are just all of a sudden not there anymore.
One of the things, let me see if I can find it. One of the things, I try not to jump into the second book. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, I'm not gonna be able to find it right now. We can keep talking. Sorry, dude. I'll find it in a second.
No worries, you're good, man. I was feeling forward to anyway, because a good bit at the start is like the current life stuff going on with Artie and his father and stuff, but then we get back into it and it's like, so yeah, basically going to work and stuff like that, and still the guards, as things are getting tighter and tighter for them. What was the next part? Oh yeah, like Uncle Persis. So is this where the kids get taken?
Oh, I think I found it. So we with the book that we got, it's like a combo, like hard case type thing. We got this little pamphlet. It kind of talks about the book a little bit, and it has the Spiegelman family tree before and after the war. And just so reading the first volume and then seeing a visual of how many people were taken, it's just crazy. Like, so this is the start of the war. You can see a full family tree, and Art is down here, and then you look at here and you see all these empty spaces where all these people were killed. It's crazy, man.
It's insane. Crazy. Like, it's a great visualization of just how devastating the occupation was.
Yeah.
Because that's it. At this point in Poland, it's not even a war. It's like it's an occupation. They've been conquered.
Yeah.
Is the only way I can use to describe it. Is like they have been literally under complete Nazi rule. I mean, because you always hear about them invading Poland, and like that's one of the worst hard-hitting places.
Yeah.
But like you only like really reading this like really hits home of like exactly what's going on in Poland at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it says Uncle Persis then comes. Well, the stuff's getting tighter, and basically has a way of getting the kids out. He talks about like his father is still with them, and he's been hiding him, and he's like 90 years old and is still surviving. Which at this point, they're like, there aren't any 90-year-old Jews left in Poland. Like, I don't know how he's pulling that off. So he's like, yeah, we'll take the kids. And they agree this time to send their son, because things are getting so much tighter. And they're glad that they do, because that's when we start hearing, like, you know, things in the ghetto are getting worse for the kids, because eventually the Nazis come and take them.
Yeah.
And he says there's kids, some only 2 or 3 years old. And he says, you know, some kids are screaming and screaming and they couldn't stop, so the Germans swing them by the legs against a wall, and they never any more screamed. And it's like, it's It's mostly off screen, but there's just like a splat on the wall, and it's like,
Yeah. Yeesh.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like as a father, like seeing that and thinking of just the prospect of someone doing that to a child
Hmm.
is like, there are very few things in this world I can think of more evil than just straightforward doing that.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
I'm like, that's. And then we find out what actually happened to his son. Um, so they sent Richevek away. Again, I'm probably butchering his name. Um, and they find out that basically everyone that was keeping them safe are dead. The Gestapo have killed the Jewish council in that area, and they're starting to take them to Auschwitz. So everyone's running. And his
Yeah.
wife, who's with the kids, basically says like, "No, I'm not going to Auschwitz. And I'm not going to a gas chamber. And my children won't go to the gas chamber." So all the kids that they took with them, their own kids and other people's, including Vladik's son,
Yeah.
she basically carried a vial of poison around her neck, and she took it and gave it to the kids. So her and the 3 kids dead,
Yeah.
poisoned. And I'm like, that's almost worse than thinking like kids dying in the midst of this horribleness that the Germans were committing, that the Nazis were committing. I understand almost like that. I'm like, that's almost more horrific because you're like, what if there'd been a chance? People came out of Auschwitz. What if there'd been a chance? And I'm like,
Yeah.
but yeah. So the Germans started hunting through homes, and this is where we get one of Vladik's amazing creations. If I
Yeah.
can show here
Yeah.
the bunker, the coal
And it's funny
bunker.
because the page that on this page, Art is talking to his dad, and they're kind of walking to the bank, and he's telling him about this bunker, and Art's like, "Well, I don't understand," and Vladik's like, "Here, give me a piece of paper, and I'll draw it for you."
Yeah, and he literally draws this entrance to this bunker, and I'm like, this is a freaking insane bunker. Like, there's food down there for days. There's all this
Yeah.
space for people to fit in. They hide out there and they sneak out at night to go and try and find food, and then they have to move to a different house, and they end up doing the same in an attic.
Yep.
Like the entrance right through a chandelier in the floor because why not?
Yeah.
And it says like by the end of July, like the Nazis had completely liquidated their ghetto. Like 10,000 Jews were taken away in 1 week.
Yeah.
So it's like they are literally some of the last Jews, and basically as some Jewish guy they don't know comes into the house. Apparently he's looking around for food, scrapping same as them, and they open the chandelier and he finds them in their space. He's like, look, I'm just trying to find food for my starving family.
Mhm.
And they take pity on him, and they're like, we can't let him go, we have to kill him. And eventually, though, they take pity on him, give him some food to go, and then he brings the Gestapo in and takes them.
Yeah. Points them right to where they're hiding.
Gets them right to it and takes them there. And basically they're taken to a holding place where I think it's like every Wednesday he says like they're shipping people off to Auschwitz, like vans of people.
But the thing that saved them is that they were put in there on Thursday, so
Yeah.
right after the day that they were shipped.
So like Vladik, of course, being the grafter that he is,
The entrepreneur.
finds like has a couple of bits and pieces on him still of value and starts like trying to work with people. I think it's like his cousin or something he sees,
Hmm.
and keeps saying like, which that's the thing that always gets me during this. Like everything they go, like every time they stay with someone or every time they get a favour, they always talk about paying for it.
Yeah.
There's no like good-heartedness. It's always like we're paying for it, and people usually
Yeah.
get sold out when they run out of money.
Yep.
And Vladik even says that to like his son Art. It's like, like wouldn't they have helped you? Even if they couldn't pay. I mean, you were from the same family. It's like, you don't understand. At that time, it wasn't any more families. It was everybody take care for himself. So basically, like, no, at this point, everyone was for themselves.
Yep.
You had to make it worth their time, even for families. And they did. Like, they brought in the other cousin who got them in, carrying out, I think it was like empty barrels or like stuff for the kitchen.
Yeah.
And they took them out, and they even paid extra to like get her parents out, because they told them at first like they're not going to get out. You're not going to be able to take her parents. They're too old. They're not going to get past the gate. They'll get noticed. He says, no, look, we need to get them out, and he even pays extra to get them out. And he takes the payment and then basically just doesn't. So Anya's parents are left there and are taken to Auschwitz, and they'll never see them again. They're gassed, and it's like, so they basically go with his cousin, and he of course starts getting back to working at everything. So like I think it's the shoe place he gets taken to, where it's like he meets a guy Milok who his brothers are like running the town essentially, and are like both corrupted. He calls them crooks. But while he's also doing that, he picks up other odd jobs, like he's basically a grave digger as well. And one of the graves he ends up digging is for the guy that sold them out.
Yeah.
He ends up being killed, shot, and it's like he ends up burying him, and it's like it's irony how it's turned around. But you start to see. On you go.
No, I was gonna say one of the most touching panel or pages for me was on 122 at the bottom. This is kind of after he's starting the new job and after he's starting to bury people, and his wife is just like having a mental breakdown. And she's like, "Why are you pulling me, Vladik? Let me alone. I don't want to live." And he said, "No, darling. To die, it's easy, but you have to struggle for life. Until the last moment, we must struggle together." I was like, that was powerful, man.
And I don't blame her for breaking down, because in that scene, like at this moment, like Milok has told him there's basically another bunker, and it's underneath a pile of shoes, which is magnificent. That's the entrance, in the shoe place. And he's basically like, "Look, I'm not telling that many people. There's not enough room in here. But you tell your wife and your nephew, who's with them, to come into the bunker." Their nephew, who's 15 at this point, is basically like, "No, I'm not going. I'm sick of running. I'm sick of hiding. I'm going to, wherever they take me, I'm going to be fine." And she basically just breaks down because she's lost everyone at this point. And the only one apart from her husband that's still with her, and she's about to lose him too. And again, they actually end up losing him. He ends up getting taken to Auschwitz. 15. 15's a kid, you know what I mean? It's like, somehow though Vladik and Anya keep making it through. But it's almost like, is it better to have died with them, or is it better to live through it all and to lose everyone around you? It's like, I can't imagine that heartbreak of just everything that happens. People just keep getting stripped from you. But they're basically hiding in the bunker for a long time. And Milok's brother, whatever the hell his name is, I can't even remember. What's his name? No idea, but one of the ones that's corrupt basically is like, "Look, I've got a way out of here. We don't have a way to get out. You can stay here and you can starve to death because there's no food left. Not had food for a while." It's like, "But I've got a way out of here. We're going to basically, our group will mix in with the Poles when they walk past Strodula on the way to work tomorrow. If you want to chip in, you can come with us." So basically, it's going to be expensive, but if you want to chip in, you can slip out.
Yeah.
If Vladik's like, "No," and Milok decides no, because this has been set up by a German he's made a deal with, and it's like, "No, we're not going to trust the Germans." And Vladik's even getting a bit of a reputation. Like, one of the other families says to him, the guy comes up and like, when you're ready to leave, I'm leaving with you. Like, I trust your judgment. And Vladik slips out behind the ones that are leaving to kind of watch what happens, and as soon as they step out, they're gunned down.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
And it doesn't show it, but it has the sound effects around the corner, so you know what happened.
Yeah, and Vladik's even like, "I didn't stick around. I ran. As soon as I heard that, I ran off." But they basically waited until there was no more sign of guards. They'd made a hole in the wall. They couldn't see anymore for a long time. I think it was like 2 nights or something. There was like no movement at all. And they go out in their pig masks, dressed as Poles, and they're like, the ghetto's empty. Like, they have literally cleaned it out and thought it was completely empty. And they all start to head off in their separate ways, and they start heading back to Sosnowiec to get back to their home.
Yep.
No idea what's awaiting them, but like, we might as well start heading back that way. And it's sad though, like the couple that had waited to go with them, and they said the guy's name was Avram. He's like, yeah, they found, and they had friends that would keep them until Avram's money finished. Then they were reported.
Yeah.
Just kind of showing that people, like, it was so bad that people just weren't willing to stick their necks out for each other.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't going to cost them. If it was going to cost too much, it's like, no, we're not going to do it. Which is kind of like the whole theme of the last chapter, essentially. is like literally them just trying to survive, going from place to place.
Hiding place to hiding place, back and forth and back and forth.
Because like they go and see, like, I think it was like was it like the governess that worked with Anya's family, who slams the door in their face. They go to see another friend who's like, you can stay in our barn. I think he was like a housekeeper or something, but one of the other Poles is like that. It's like, there's a Jew in our courtyard, call the police. And it's like, yeah, you can't stay here for long.
Yeah,
they're going to rat you out. Like, you're going to get spotted and recognised. You can't stay here. You know, and it's like, and you see them starting to get paranoid, like him walking down the street and thinking he's getting followed, and it turns out the guy following him's another Jew and checking in on him. But you see like the paranoia setting in. The other Jew shows him another black market in the area, which of course Vladik, right back to work. The hoodwinker and swindler that he is, like under table dealing at his best. Like he literally goes there and like finds a place, like, do you want this stuff? And he comes back to Anya like, where have you been? You've been gone for so long. It's like, oh, I was just getting breakfast sausages and eggs and bread. And I'm like, where the hell have you been that you got all this?
Yeah, I feel like the last chapter kind of just bounces around with Vladik and Anya just going from hiding place to hiding place.
Well,
they get captured.
Yeah, well, like from there they get led to like a barn that's outside of town, and they're allowed to live there. They just have to make a deal of basically like, if they catch you, I don't know you. Yeah. If they catch you, then you don't turn on me and turn me in. And they're like, no, we wouldn't do that. But Vladik, by the way, like he has got confidence like nobody else. Like they talk about, he takes a tram to work, and he's wearing his pole mask. He's got his pig mask on, and he doesn't even go on the Polish train. He's like, they would be able to smell a Jew a mile away.
He goes in the.
But he goes in the freaking Nazi. Like there's a compartment specifically for Nazi and German officers and officials.
He's hiling Hitler and everything.
He goes in there like, Heil Hitler and all this sort of stuff to people, and it's like, he's just going in with the confidence in the world and nobody bats an eye at him. I'm like, dude, that's insane. And he ends up making friends with like a lady that works at the black market who offers him to stay at their home. And basically like her husband works in Germany along with the Nazis, but he only comes back for like 10-day stints every 3 months. She's like, I'll hide you if that happens. But she ends up getting her stuff taken, coming back from market at one point, and she like freaks out and chases him out of the house thinking they're coming. Yeah. So they end up going back to the barn and staying at the barn there, and the woman's a little bit nippy there, she's a little bit aggressive, but she still takes good care of them. And eventually he bumps back into the previous woman they stayed with, and they end up going back to stay with her again. Because she's like, nothing happened, I overreacted, I would love you to come back. Yeah. Where they end up having to stay in the basement for like 10 days because the husband's there, and she can't like go down for days because like he's getting suspicious. And then
he's like, what are you, hiding Jews?
Yeah, it's like, are you hiding Jews? It's like, yeah.
Actually, I am.
I love this next page though, page 149. Vladik walking out in the streets, starting to head back. He took the streetcar, starting to head back home. A bunch of kids start pointing at him and going, a Jew, help mommy, it's a Jew. And there's stories going around that Jews are going to like, they're evil and are going to like bag them and steal them and all this. Yeah. I love how smart he is. He's like, if I'd ran, they would have known I was Jewish. And he just walks up to them and goes, Heil Hitler. Yeah. He says, see, look, there's nothing to be scared of, little ones. I'm not going to hurt you. And they're like, oh, sorry, mister, you know how kids are. And like, Hail Hitler back. And it's like, he just walks up with so much confidence. Yeah. And just completely owns the situation and just turns it around. And I'm like, I want to know how many situations Vladik like saved his own skin doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying amongst guys with somebody like that, he's just got a brass set. I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, just to go up, and I'm like, but that's it, like nothing to lose. Just goes up. I'm going to give it a try. Yeah. You know, and obviously these, and then from there, it's like it's basically just more like bouncing around. It's more bouncing around, more hiding, and eventually, it comes up. The best thing to do is to get out of the country. Yeah. He talks about like, I'd love to get out of Poland, and who's it he's talking to that says like to go to Hungary? I can't even remember.
I think it's part of somebody's family because they're Polish.
Hmm.
Um,
But they talk about how they knew someone that was able to smuggle somebody out to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hungary, and apparently from what she's heard, it might even be the woman he's staying with, and it's like they're doing well. It's not as bad there as it is in Poland. So that becomes the new goal,
Yeah.
is to get a train
Yep.
and get out the country.
Going to Hungary. That's right.
And it looks like everything's going great.
Mm.
They even get to the train station, they get on the train, they pay the people like the however much they were owing them. It's like, don't worry, it's like we're just phoning ahead for border and all this stuff. And then of course the train gets swarmed by Nazis. Unmask them, and they find them and march them out. And then from there they're stuck into prison so the transport can be arranged. And then they're taken to Auschwitz.
Yeah. And then you have obviously the famous gates.
Yeah, and then going through the gates in the
Where
back
we'll
of
set you free.
the trucks. And that's it, that's where Volume 1 ends.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, there's a whole second volume full of stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what the heck happens at this camp?
Yeah.
That they fill a second volume with it. Like, seriously. It's like, that's it, that's the end of Volume 1, and I'm like, I was invested
Yes.
every step of the way.
Like I said, this was one of the few comics where I just read it. I wasn't really focused on the art or the pictures. I just read it, man. I was engrossed.
Yeah. I mean, Art Spiegelman knows. I know it's a real life story and it's his father, but the way he puts the story down on paper, puts the pictures together, and just crafts this amazing comic
Yeah,
is phenomenal. It really is phenomenal.
I agree. I agree.
It's
It
such.
reminded me a little of, just from an art standpoint, it reminded me a little bit of Usagi Yojimbo.
Yeah, it's kind of that
Although I feel
old
like,
school start.
yeah, I feel like Usagi was a little more polished with the art, but I feel like the art style was perfect for this.
Oh yeah, the art style definitely fits that, and it's like, it's very much that. I think it's very like Usagi just because it was not to say anthropomorphic kind of element to it, but just it's very old school. You know, like you said, this came out in the 70s originally, and I mean, I'm reading this in 2022, and it's still as hard hitting.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like 50 years later, this comic
yeah,
still hits in such a phenomenal way. If you've not read it, like, let me put this as well across. This was our like Cliff Notes version. There is
yeah,
so much more to this story, and there's so much more to be engrossed in and to get lost in, and learning about this story of this family. If you have not read Minutes for yourself, I would highly recommend it.
yeah. And it comes. You can get like a cool box set of the two volumes as well.
Yeah.
That's really
So,
really cool.
yeah, you can get a box set of the two. You can also get like a complete set of like just one big volume of it, and
Mhm.
it comes in tons of different forms. Like, I'd love to say like, yeah, we got the fancy box set version. That's literally the first one that was available.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to cost me like $100 for like for a set, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I would highly recommend this. It's weird because I want to say this is one of my favorite comics that we've covered, but I almost don't want to put it on that same level
Hmm.
because it hits very differently.
Yeah.
It's not like reading like, you know, some of the other ones that we've loved that we've done, like Lock and Key and Spencer and Locke, and you know,
Hmm.
Invincible, and a lot of these other comics with hit Klaus and different things. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a fictional story. It's not a take on a mythos. It's not a reinvention of something. It's a real life story, as is. Literally, the only thing that stops it hitting like that, like being just full blown real life story, is the way the characters are drawn to have animal heads.
Yeah.
That's it. Um, but I think it's well worth checking out.
Yeah. If you haven't read it, you need to. You really need to.
Yeah, I would highly recommend this. And as I said, this is only volume 1.
Mhm.
We're doing volume 1 today. We are delving into that. We are going to be back next Sunday to go over volume 2. This is our first ever like 2-part indie comic book club, because there's 2 volumes to this, and we're going through the whole series. And this is probably one of the first times you'll get like a whole series of something on Indie Comic Book Club, and just from the nature of it, and I'm excited. Like, I love this comic. I am so hyped to get into Volume 2. I'm so excited to delve into Volume 2 and see where the story goes from here, in all honesty.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
this has been a really, like, engaging read. Like, I did not want to put this down. Chunk,
Dude,
well, you
that's
guys
awesome,
sold
man.
me, order placed for the 2 volume set. You won't
Heck
regret
yeah,
it,
dude.
Chunk.
Yeah, you won't.
It's if there's any comic that you guys pick up that we can recommend to you, pick up Mouse
Yeah.
over anything else that we've recommended, over the amazing creators that we've had on, the amazing comics we've talked about, the amazing, stuff that we've covered on this show. If there's one thing you take away from this show, go and pick up Mouse for yourself.
Yeah.
And check it out. The comic itself is amazing, but the subject matter is just too important to ignore.
Agreed.
It's just too important to. Don't let one school taking it out of its curriculum, which started this whole thing,
Uh-huh.
become it being taken away. Hey, Jay, my lovely wife in chat. It's a story that needs to keep
Jay?
being told so we don't forget it. Absolutely, hon. Absolutely. It's a story that needs to be told. We can't forget the atrocities that happened there and what these people went through.
Mm-hmm.
Probably genocide on a scale like we have never seen
Yeah.
before or seen since. Because say what you want about previous genocides and about previous stuff where people were like slaughtered and stuff, and I don't want to say it as an excuse to it, but there was almost a purpose to it. Like when people travelled to the United States and started wiping out the Native Americans or any other country where the natives were wiped out like that, there was a purpose of wanting land, wanting seizure, wanting to gain control of stuff, wanting all of this. When black people were slaughtered in Africa and brought over in the slave trade to the Western world, there was trying to get free labour. There was almost like a reason behind it, which, do not misquote me, that does not make it right. These are horrible atrocities.
Yeah.
There was no purpose to the genocide of the Jews during the Holocaust.
Just to exterminate them.
Just hatred.
Yeah.
Just this unabounding hatred that Hitler had for them. And they were just slaughtered senselessly.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the fun. I mean, the guy I talked about that held the gun up to Vladik's head,
Mm-hmm.
and if he hadn't got the real papers, like, he would have been shot. His friends later say, you're lucky that worked and you survived. That guy is literally called Shooter, and he shoots a Jew every day, randomly, just for fun.
Yeah.
It's like it was genocide for the sake of hatred on an entire people. I don't think there's ever been a genocide or slaughter like it, and I pray there never will be again.
It's actually a quote from Hitler at the beginning of the book that Art puts in here. He says, "The Jews are undoubtedly a race, but they are not human." Like, that's what they were fighting.
And that's literally it. It's like
fighting.
Hitler did not see them as human. They were not on the same level as a human being, and it's like, and you can tell that's what he thought from the way they were treated. It was horrifying, and like I'm excited to read Volume 2, and I'm also kind of terrified.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also kind of terrified because I'm like, what the hell am I about to read? Because I've heard some of the stuff that happened at Auschwitz. You hear the stories of people talking about it and the reports on it, and I'm like, all I keep thinking is there's over 100 pages, 6 chapters in the second volume.
Yeah.
And we're now at Auschwitz.
Yeah.
With a year left to the end of the war.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell fills 6 chapters?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm ready to read it, but I'm also kind of not.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, honestly, I think it's kind of the perfect way to read this book, to be completely honest with you. I think that's the kind of mindset you should have.
Something we do indie comics to enjoy the read, to like, oh, this was awesome. I really enjoyed this aspect of it. I really enjoyed this aspect of it. It's not really obviously the case with this.
No, it's not that sort of comic. It's more important.
Yeah.
No, and And that's it, and that's the thing of like I think that's why it was so important we covered this book. Because yeah, Indie Comic Book Club is meant to be a laugh. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be, hey, we checked out this really cool comic, you should go read it. Here's what we loved about it, or hey,
Or you shouldn't read it.
or we checked out this comic and oh my goodness, this is awful. Here's why you shouldn't
Yeah.
bother about this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the art's great or the art's awful or the storytelling, what the hell were they thinking? You know, it's like
Yeah.
we delve into the aspects of what we love and hate about it.
Yep.
I love this book, but I do not consider it on the same level as the other books we've done. This is completely different. This is a must read. 100%. If above any other comic I've ever read, any comic I've got sitting behind me, that I've got in my long box, this is a must read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
But sorry if I've went off in like rants or tangents or anything like that today.
Oh, good, dude.
It's just it's something that's really hit me at my core. Like as soon as I heard of the controversy around this book, I'm like, that's the next book we need to do.
Yeah.
That needs to be done. And I'm grateful that we got the chance to do it again. Shout out to Richmond Comics for hooking us up.
Yeah.
Chunk even saying in chat there, it's like it's temporarily out of stock, so I don't know when I'll be getting it, but I look forward to reading it, even though it's going to be a tough read. Like, yeah. And that's the thing, like, we honestly did not think we were going to get to review this today. Like, about a week ago, it was like, this is sold out everywhere. And then out of nowhere, it came in stock, and I thank God that it did. I thank God that this came in stock, and we got the chance to talk about it. This has been amazing. This has been a phenomenal...
Awesome. It's a good choice, dude.
This has been a phenomenal book to read, and I'm excited to do it next week. So, yeah, folks, I think that's pretty much us for today.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've said as much as we can on this volume, although I could just sit and rant and ramble about it forever, it feels like. I think we've hit pretty much everything, and I've rambled enough for about 10 people. But we will be back next Sunday, 2 o'clock Eastern again.
Yep.
For the second part of Mouse in our Indie Comic Book Club. Again, like Chunk was saying, like it's out of stock temporarily wherever you can get it. Check with your local comic stores, check on Amazon.
Even check your library, honestly.
Yeah, I think the library is like, there's a massive list. I think Jay checked
Oh,
there.
yeah,
like
that's
this
right.
monster list of people who book it out. But
That's
check
like
everywhere.
your waiting list.
Yeah, check it everywhere to see where you can find it. And even if you do have to pre-order it, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth it. It's well worth checking this book out. But we are here throughout this week as well. We're going to be back this week. Tomorrow night, Jay, my lovely wife who's in chat, is going to be back tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, kicking off a brand new series, BioShock Infinite, as she starts the last of the BioShock games. So definitely come hang out with her, check that out. We're dead excited for this one. This is the one that everyone's been basically praising as one of the favourites. So she's really excited for that. Tuesday night, I will be back 8:30 p.m. here, playing through more Batman Arkham City. We got through I feel like we didn't get through a lot last Tuesday, but yeah, I was playing for about as long as before, just really long storyline elements. But come and join me for that. I've been really enjoying that playthrough, so I'd love you all to come and join me. Nitro will be back on Thursday night at 8:30. Yep. You still sticking at 8:30? Yeah.
I think so. We had a really good stream last Thursday. It was really cool. A lot of people showed up. Not a lot of cool people. Everybody that showed up was cool. How about that? So it was really cool. So yeah, we'll be back on Thursday.
Yeah. So he'll be back 8:30 on Thursday, and then of course I'll be back 8 o'clock on Friday night for our new weekly Sea of Thieves stream, where I will be joined by Chunk the Hut, who's chatting away in chat right now, with Caleb from Mountain Nerds is going to be coming back to join us again, and Seal the Centurion took our 4th spot, so that is going to be our crew for this coming Friday. I am looking forward to it. We had a lot of fun last Friday if you guys missed it, so come and check that out. And I just want to say a little something to wrap up here, just something that's been on my mind this week. Like, honestly, I think, because we've kind of talked a little bit about it, it's been really, this week I think has been really rough on us as streamers, because I feel like a lot of our streams in the last week or two, I feel like the numbers have been down from where they were.
Mm-hmm.
We've had really low numbers and stuff, and I think it really started getting us down, because as a streamer you start to think, like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why am I not why are the numbers not coming in? They used to be higher than this. Why are people not showing up now? Don't see some of our regulars in the way that we used to, or as frequently as we used to. It's like, so what's going on? Why don't they show up anymore? And I was talking with Jane, kind of like voicing some stuff out, and she really helped hit stuff home of, why are we doing this? I'm doing this because I love comics. I love geek culture, and I want to share the love of Jesus with all of you. I want to share you guys that there's a place to come and talk and be a Christian and be a geek and come and hang out and have fun and just know that you're loved and accepted for exactly who you are. And for everyone who's in chat now, everyone who's listening to this on the podcast later, watching this on YouTube, I want you to know how much we appreciate you.
Yeah.
How much we appreciate that you come and want to hang out with us as we ramble and talk about comics and movies and TV shows and let our geek flag fly quite proudly. Something that we don't always get the chance to do, and come in and geek out with us and enjoy it with us and come and hang out with us and just enjoy it. And I know the podcast is our main thing, so it's always probably going to get more viewership than the rest of the stuff because that's what everyone's kind of knows us for now.
Yeah.
But for all the other streams that we do, thank you so much to everyone who does come out and hang out with us.
Absolutely.
They come and hang out in the art stream, or hangs out when I'm playing Batman, or Jay's playing Bioshock, or when we play Sea of Thieves and get completely lost and don't know what we're doing, which is pretty much every single, which is like pretty much every single stream, especially the vomiting at each other.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, because this isn't a job. I don't get fully paid. Like my goal, I would love for the stream, is I want to keep growing in followers, and I would love to get at least up to 40 subs a month, because that would translate as about $100. And we get payouts from Twitch at $100, and that would be my goal, is to get enough so that we get a payout from here every month, so that we can keep upgrading stuff for our stream, we can keep getting books for Indie Comic Book Club, we can do mystery boxes like this and do actual things on stream frequently. And just to give, because like all the money we get for stream goes to the stream. Like I don't make money off of this all. We did our taxes, and like literally all the money we got from stream is like, yeah, that was spent on this, that was spent on this, that was spent on this. Like literally every cent goes back into the stream.
Yeah.
And so that would be my only goal to eventually get to, really. But I realised I was starting to focus so much on the numbers and not on the people coming in.
Yeah.
And I want to say a massive thank you just to the people.
Yeah, I want to second that, man.
Yeah, we've been doing this for like 2 years.
Which is crazy.
It's going to be 2 years next month, 2 years in March.
Crazy. It's been 2 years.
And it's like, it's insane to think like how far the stream has come, how much our community's grown, how interactive some of y'all are, and just invested all you've all gotten with us and just given us this opportunity. I have met so many good friends, so many amazing people, so many people that I love being part of our community, and I love being part of their communities of their streamers.
And look, man, I know how busy I am and my family is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cross is way more busy than I am. So, like, I think, I mean, I know other people are busy. I'm not discounting that, but we understand what it means when you guys show up to our stream. We understand that means you're taking a night out of your week to spend with people that you've probably never met in person, but that you enjoy listening to.
Yeah.
You know, we appreciate that, and we appreciate the support.
You guys have lives.
Yeah.
And I think the realization is, like, when you do this as a streamer and you get people coming in regularly, it's very easy to start to feel like you owe me. And start having a mentality that goes that way, and just the realization of kind of like, you guys owe us nothing. If Comics in the Cross stopped today, heaven forbid that it does, but like if it stopped today, I couldn't have asked more from our amazing community and everything y'all have given me.
Yeah.
Your amazing love and generosity has literally had me in tears on this stream.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys have given us so much, and you know, and this is completely speaking from me, like, I can get to me so much sometimes, and like, in realizing, you know what, you guys are amazing. Shut up, Chunk. You guys are awesome. Nitro's more awesome.
I mean, Chunk speaks the truth. So,
and Chunk getting kicked off the ship for Friday. Need a new fourth. Just kidding.
Hey,
Chunk.
watch out for the brig. I'm just gonna throw that out there, Chunk. Watch out for the brig.
Yeah, just Chunk. If you end up in the brig randomly at some point, then you know you knew it was coming. But thank you for the lovely Chunk, and thank you as well, Space.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I appreciate you both. I appreciate all of you. But yeah, I wanted to say that as a little aside here because it's something that has been on my mind today, and I've been thinking about and praying on, and like you all are amazing, and you've given us so much.
Yeah.
Like, we're just two dudes that love comics and love talking about comics, and just wanted to come and share it with people, and the fact you all showed up. Chunk, don't challenge me, man. You don't challenge me.
I was about to say,
don't threaten
him with a good time. You
so
know
don't.
what that means, Chunk.
I will throw you in the brig, and I will throw firebombs at you, and just leave you under there.
He will murder you while you're in a cage. He has no remorse.
That reminds me, I need to clip that scene from Friday night where I blew you off the front of the ship with a fireball.
Dude, you got to clip the one where I blew you up too, because that was I haven't laughed that hard on a stream, I don't think, ever.
The clip from my angle is literally going to be like me looking forward, and out of nowhere I just launched to the side for no reason and into the water. I didn't even know it was coming.
I was gonna I knew it was gonna hit you, but I knew it was gonna blow you off the boat. So when you flew off the boat, I almost fell on the floor, dude.
I launched it in the water like, I'm in the water. Why am I in the water?
For some reason, Cross and I got in a firebomb throwing contest.
I don't know why. I just
Friday.
I literally just started. I went, "Hey, Nitro," and you went, "What?" Boom. And it began.
On the deck with the firebomb, and I'm like, nope.
Well, do you know what it was? Because I think we were kind of challenging each other with PvP, and you're like, wouldn't it be cool if PvP was on? And I'm like, well, you know what actually you can do that we can PvP each other with? We can bomb each other.
Oh my god.
I'm going to say, Chunk, yeah, you want to challenge me, Chunk, that's fine, but be prepared for it, son. I will screw up a whole stream chasing you with fireballs. I do not regret it one bit. I will not. But yeah, I just wanted to wrap up today and say that a massive thank you to our community. You guys are phenomenal. To the Comic Clan, to the Nation of Geeks, you guys are absolutely amazing. Love each and every one of you. We, of course, are done for today, so let me quickly, I should have been doing this, but I got in another rant again. Let me see who is online that we can go and drop a raid on.
While you're doing that, posting some stuff in our chat. If you want to follow us on our socials, we have our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Also drop our Discord in there as well. If you want to come hang out with us outside of the stream, it's pretty active. We have tons of different channels. We talk about a ton of different stuff. So if you want to hang out, come join us.
Yeah, you want to hang out and chat? We'd love to chat with you. We try and chat as frequently as we can. We try and keep it going as much as we can. If we miss any conversation, apologies. Like we said, we have life, so sometimes it does happen. But we would love to chat with you about everything and anything that you want. I mean, if you want to talk about comic stuff, that'd be probably preferable. We can actually get involved. You can come and talk about football if you want, but you know, as that conversation crashes,
I'm not going to be able to contribute anything. So
I'll sit there and go, yeah, that sounds really cool, yeah. And that's about my input. Let's see who's on. It looks like it's a very different kind of people. There we go. We've not raided her before. Let's go raid Sassy Sapphire. She is playing some Sea of Thieves. Let's go and show her some love. She is part of the clan cast that we're part of, so let's go and show her some love. Oh no, even better. Sinner's Prayer from the Unashamed Network's on. Let's go show Sinner some prayer. Let's go Sinner some love. His name is Sinner's Prayer. Shut up, Cross. Cross is tired. Cross had a date night and a flood last night. He's very tired.
Go show Sinner some prayer. Let's do it.
Absolute Bible Nerd, 100%. You can catch it. I'm going to be posting it on wherever you can get your podcast or on YouTube. But thank you so much for coming at the end. Hope the game went well. Hope it was worth it. But we are going to go. We are going to show some love to Sinner's Prayer, and we will see you all tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Remember, it's a good week to be a geek. Take care and have a good night.
Zero miedo.